Surprise. The four rulers were surprised. The surprise is in this interspatial ring. Take a look. Jian Wushuang took out the interspatial ring. Guess what the surprise will be? Taoist Shen God smiled and looked at the three people around him. In my opinion, it should be one or two supreme treasures. The heaven ancestors' eyes lit up. For the heavenly marquis to treat it as a pleasant surprise, it must be something that we can use. It's most likely a supreme true treasure, and it might also be a special opportunity, said the leader of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance. Could it be a special treasure comparable to the heaven-subduing steel? The Temporal Temple Master guessed. The four of them were chatting and guessing, but their consciousness had already sunk into the cosmos ring. Soon, they swept through the items in the interspatial ring. Immediately, the eyes of these four rulers who were absolutely high and mighty in the divine beginning realm widened. Even their mouths could not help but open. They were completely stunned. There was nothing they could do. The things in the cosmos ring were really too shocking. Supreme treasures. All of them are supreme treasures. Judging from their auras, they are all pinnacle supreme treasures. There are so many pinnacle true treasures. There must be tens of thousands of them. No, not only pinnacle true treasures. There are also supreme true treasures. Look carefully. The four of them scanned the ring with their consciousness. Indeed, there were a lot of pinnacle true treasures in the ring. There were also some true treasures that gave off auras that were far superior to those of pinnacle true treasures. That unique aura. It was something that only a supreme true treasure could possess. It's a supreme true treasure, and there are more than one or two of them. There must be dozens of them, right? How is that possible? How can there be so many supreme true treasures and pinnacle true treasures? The four rulers were all shocked. Pinnacle true treasures were considered extremely precious in this star field, and even rulers would attach great importance to them. After all, it was very rare for principals masters to have pinnacle true treasures in the star field. Most rulers only used pinnacle true treasures, and many did not have a supreme true treasure in their hands. As for supreme true treasures, there was no need to mention them. Any one of them was enough to make rulers envious and even go crazy. It was as crazy as the fight in the Red Cloud world, and those rulers were so eager, they wanted to get the supreme true treasures that were born in the Red Cloud world. Since Jian Wushuang said that he had brought them a surprise, the four of them guessed that Jian Wushuang's surprise might be a supreme true treasure. If there were only a few pinnacle true treasures or 2 or 3 supreme true treasures in the interspatial ring, they would not be so surprised. However, the key point was that there were tens of thousands of pinnacle true treasures in the interspatial ring. There were also dozens of supreme true treasures. With so many supreme true treasures, how could they not be excited? Heavenly Marquis. Heavenly Sword Marquis. The four rulers looked at Jian Wushuang with burning eyes. Heavenly Marquis. How many supreme true treasures and supreme true treasures are there in the interspatial ring? Temporal Temple Master asked excitedly. There are 100,000 pinnacle treasures in total. As for supreme treasures, there are 100 of them, Jian Wushuang said with a smile. 100,000 pinnacle treasures and 100 supreme treasures? The four rulers were a little confused. They were really shocked by the number, and it took them a long time to come back to their senses. My heavenly marquis friend, what's going on? What great opportunity did you get in the second heaven of earth in the Red Cloud world? Taoist Shen God asked. Well, Jian Wushuang shook his head and smiled. I can only say that there is a great opportunity in the Red Cloud world, but I can't tell you what it is because of some special relationships. However, I can tell you the origin of these supreme treasures. They are all supreme treasures in the Red Cloud world, and only a small part of them. A small part. The four rulers were stunned. You know that every time the Red Cloud world is opened, a large number of true treasures will be born. The Red Cloud world has been born many times, but there are still countless true treasures each time. This is mainly because there is a huge true treasure vault in the Red Cloud world. There are hundreds of millions of true treasures there, and there are also many supreme true treasures, Jian Wushuang said. As soon as he finished speaking, he heard the four rulers throbbing their throats. Jian Wushuang was not surprised by this. Even he was shocked when he heard Lord Wu mention the supreme treasures in the Red Cloud world. However, when he learned about the existence of the principal supreme treasures, he gradually understood. These hundreds of millions of supreme treasures are incredible to our star field. However, the Red Cloud world has a huge history, so these supreme treasures are nothing to the Red Cloud world. I passed the test of Heaven-Treading Mountain. So the Lord in charge of the Red Cloud world asked me to enter the treasure vault to pick out the supreme treasures. He gave me the authority to pick out 100 supreme treasures. As for the pinnacle supreme treasures, he didn't have too many restrictions. If I want them, I can even pick out hundreds of thousands of pinnacle supreme treasures. However, I thought it might not be a good thing if there were too many supreme treasures, so I chose 100,000 of them. As for your 100 supreme treasures, I chose them carefully, Jian Wushuang said with a smile. The faces of the 4 rulers in front of them had long turned red, and they were breathing heavily. It was obvious that Jian Wushuang had given them a big surprise. However, the 4 rulers had experienced many storms, so they soon calmed down. My young friend, you've really given us a big surprise this time, Taoist Xian God praised. Indeed, Temporal Temple Master nodded. 100,000 supreme true treasures and 100 supreme true treasures. There are all kinds of supreme true treasures, and there are so many of them. If this batch of supreme true treasures is taken out, it will definitely cause a huge wave in this star field. Countless rulers will probably go crazy because of it. If we had known that you could get so many supreme true treasures after passing through Heaven-Treading Mountain, we wouldn't have risked our lives to kill Pupil Master for a supreme true treasure armor. Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master curled his lips and said, "Haha." Jian Wushuang also smiled. By the way, my young friend, how do you plan to distribute these supreme true treasures? Taoist Xian God looked at him. I have already thought about how to distribute them on the way back. Jian Wushuang became serious. I brought these supreme treasures back from the Red Cloud world. No one knows about them except us, so I'm not stupid enough to make them public. Although I prepared these supreme treasures for the war between the Divine Beginning Realm and the Devil Cloud Star in the future, and I will certainly distribute them to the Principal's Masters participating in the war to enhance their strength. The war hasn't started yet, so there's no need to distribute them now. So, except for the 4 of you, each of you can choose a few supreme true treasures that are suitable for your use. The rest of the supreme true treasures will be kept in the Star Palace by you, Xian God. You can take them out when the war starts, Jian Wushuang said. Well, the war hasn't started yet. We don't need to expose the existence of these supreme true treasures. This way, we can have more trump cards when the war with the Devil Cloud Star begins. I even suggest that we don't need to choose too many supreme true treasures for now. At most, we can choose 1 or 2 supreme true treasures that can save our lives, Temporal Temple Master said. I agree. I agree as well. The leader of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance and the Heaven Ancestor both nodded repeatedly. My young friend, Heavenly Marquis, you want me to take care of this batch of supreme treasures? Taoist Xian God frowned. Although I am the Palace Lord of the Star Palace, and I spend most of my time within the Star Palace, although I won't encounter any danger, there's always a chance. I feel that it's best for you to keep this batch of supreme treasures by your side. After all, your power is there. In this star field, no one can do anything to you. Naturally, no one will be able to snatch this batch of supreme treasures away from you. Yes, Heavenly Marquis, it's better for you to take care of this batch of treasures, the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master said. Everyone, there's another reason why I want Xian God to take care of this batch of treasures, Jian Wushuang said. Oh, what is it? The 4 rulers looked at him. To tell you the truth, I got a great opportunity in the second heaven of the Red Cloud world. Although my strength has improved a lot, my strength has reached a bottleneck. If I want to improve a lot more, I can't just blindly meditate. I have to go through life and death experiences. Therefore, I've decided to explore the depths of the 3 battlefields. In the depths of the 3 battlefields, there are many dangers. I can't guarantee my safety, so it's better to leave these treasures in Star Palace, Jian Wushuang said. Is that so? The 4 rulers nodded. They were all rulers and top experts in this star field. They knew that a cultivator was stuck in a bottleneck and it was very difficult to break through. Without a doubt, it was the easiest way to break through a bottleneck. They could understand why Jian Wushuang chose to explore some dangerous places at this time. In that case, I'll keep this batch of supreme treasures for now. Taoist Xiangod nodded. Then he asked, "By the way, my young friend, there are many dangerous places in the depths of the 3 battlefields. Where are you going to explore?" "I've already thought of going to the dark magic region," Jian Wushuang said. "What?" The 4 rulers were all shocked. "Heavenly Sword Marquis, are you going to the dark magic region?" The heaven-cleaving alliance master exclaimed, his expression becoming extremely solemn. "My young friend, don't be rash," Taoist Xiangod said immediately. "The dark magic region is one of the most dangerous places in the depths of Devil Smoke Valley. In terms of danger, it's not much worse than the life and death realm. Even a superior ruler is afraid of the dark magic region and doesn't dare to go there. Although your strength is comparable to a superior ruler, it's still too dangerous for you to go there. Right?" The temporal temple master nodded solemnly. Although the dark magic region can be considered a known region, very few people in this star field know what dangers lie within it. Our star palace knows nothing about the dark magic region, but we know very well that without the power of a supreme ruler, anyone who enters the dark magic region will die. Even a superior ruler has a high chance of dying once they enter the dark magic region. From several eras ago until now, there have been 18 recorded superior rulers who have entered the dark magic region. Only 3 of them survived, while the other 15 died in the dark magic region. The survival rate is less than 20%. It's too low. When Jian Wushuang said that he wanted to explore the dark magic region, the 4 rulers objected. Of course, it was normal for them to object. The dark magic region was located in the depths of Devil Smoke Valley. It was a forbidden area that many cultivators in the star field did not dare to set foot in. In a few epochs, a total of 18 superior rulers entered the dark magic region to explore, but only 3 of them came out alive. The terrifying probability of death was enough to scare people. Moreover, even the 3 superior rulers who had escaped from the dark magic region were unwilling to talk about anything in the dark magic region and strictly ordered their experts not to venture into the dark magic region. Obviously, they were frightened by what had happened in the dark magic region. Such a terrifying place had even frightened the superior rulers. They were naturally worried that Jian Wushuang would also meet with misfortune if he ventured into the dark magic region. "Gentlemen, I've made up my mind." Jian Wushuang looked around at the 4 rulers with a faint smile. "Perhaps the dark magic region is indeed very dangerous. Even a superior ruler has less than a 20% chance of surviving there. It's a narrow escape, but what I need now is precisely such danger. After all, my life-saving ability has long surpassed most of the superior rulers. In addition, I have many skills that are far superior to ordinary superior rulers. If I were in other places, it would be difficult for me to gain life and death experience. Even so, you can't choose the dark magic region directly. You can choose a less threatening place, such as the Bone Forest and the Emperor Evil Island. These places can also be very useful for a superior ruler," Taoist Xiangod said. Jian Wushuang just smiled and said nothing. The Bone Forest and the Emperor Evil Island were indeed dangerous places. A superior ruler only had a 50 to 60% chance of surviving. However, after 10,000 years of cultivation in the second heaven of the Red Cloud world, Jian Wushuang's strength had long surpassed that of an ordinary superior ruler. In terms of life-saving ability, those superior rulers were far inferior to him, not to mention all kinds of supreme treasures and means. It was precisely because he was now strong and his life-saving ability was heaven-defying that he was so confident. Places like the Bone Forest and the Emperor Evil Island were not too challenging for him. If he wanted to experience life and death experiences, he could only go to the dark magic region, where he had a slim chance of survival. Taoist Xiangod and the others still wanted to persuade him, but Jian Wushuang did not listen to them. They were helpless. "Well, since you've made your decision, we won't stop you. But when you get to the dark magic region, you must be careful and come back alive. Taoist Shen God said solemnly. Of course, I don't intend to lose my life there. Jian Wushuang smiled. My young friend, when do you plan to leave? Temporal Temple Master looked at him. I'll go back to the divine beginning realm first. I think I'll leave in about a dozen years, Jian Wushuang said. A dozen years? Temporal Temple Master's expression changed. Okay, in these 10 years, we'll try our best to gather some information about the dark magic region for you. After all, there were 3 superior rulers who came out alive. They must know something about the dangers in the dark magic region. Although the 3 superior rulers have left this star field long ago, they might have left some information behind. Well, it would be best if I could get some information about the dark magic region. Jian Wushuang nodded. In that case, I'll go back to the divine beginning realm first. After saying that, Jian Wushuang turned around and left. After Jian Wushuang left, Taoist Shen God, Temporal Temple Master, Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master, and Heaven Ancestor all looked unhappy. I still don't want him to go to the dark magic region. After all, it's too dangerous there, Taoist Shen God said. I don't agree with him, but what can we do if he insists? Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master spread out his hands. Heaven Marquis is fighting, Temporal Temple Master suddenly said seriously. Fighting? Taoist Shen God, Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master, and Heaven Ancestor all looked over. The situation in our divine beginning realm is extremely dire. It won't be long before Devil Cloud Star Master and the experts under his command arrive. Given the current strength of our divine beginning realm, it will be very difficult for us to fight against him. Thus, the best way to change the situation and turn the situation around is for our heavenly marquis friend to break through to become a ruler and then seize the divine beginning realm. As long as he takes over the divine beginning realm, we will truly be able to rest easy. However, it's obvious that our heavenly marquis friend is still a distance away from the ruler realm. He has even reached a bottleneck. Under normal circumstances, he wouldn't need to be in such a rush. In the future, he would slowly think of a way to break through. However, the situation in the divine beginning realm is too tense, so he has no choice but to go all out. He has to take the risk for the sake of our divine beginning realm. The palace master's voice was deep. The other 3 rulers were also stunned by Temporal Temple Master's words. They immediately understood. Indeed, if it was not necessary, who would be willing to take the risk in the dark magic region, where even the top rulers had a slim chance of survival? Even if Jian Wushuang encountered a bottleneck, he could slowly find a chance to break through it in the future. As long as he had enough time, it would be enough. Jian Wushuang had just cultivated for a long time, so he had plenty of time. But why was he in such a hurry to venture into the dark magic region? It was because the divine beginning realm was in a very critical situation, and it would not be long before many experts from the magic cloud planet would come to kill him. He could not wait, and he had no choice. He could only take risks, and he could only risk his life for the divine beginning realm. After understanding this, the 4 rulers present could not help but feel a trace of admiration. To them, Jian Wushuang could only be considered a junior. After all, Jian Wushuang's master, Xianxia, was a good friend from the same era as them, but he was such a junior. At this moment they all felt admiration. This admiration was not only in terms of strength, but also in terms of character and responsibility. The responsibility and burden on Jian Wushuang's shoulders were indeed too heavy. The life and death of the entire divine beginning realm was above him. Under such pressure, Jian Wushuang did not have any intention of retreating. Instead, he tried his best to find life for the divine beginning realm. He had brought out so many supreme treasures from the Red Cloud world, which were prepared for the cultivators of the divine beginning realm. He had gone to the dark magic region to fight for a greater opportunity for the divine beginning realm. Unknowingly, the 4 rulers' impression of Jian Wushuang had become extremely lofty. Perhaps Jian Wushuang was still very young, but he was definitely a towering tree in the divine beginning realm. The divine beginning realm. After Jian Wushuang returned, he first went to meet his parents and relatives to understand the situation of the cultivators from the eternal chaotic world in the divine beginning realm. Then he directly entered his secret realm of heaven and earth, that was the eternal chaotic world. Under the huge ancient battlefield, a towering stone tablet was still standing there quietly. Devil Flame, you were an ultimate chaos ruler and have explored the depths of the universe. You have good knowledge. Can you see what level the stone tablet in front of me is? Jian Wushuang asked. Although Devil Flame's soul was in the blood-red gourd, he could still see what was happening in the outside world. This is the Heaven Suppression Tablet? Devil Flame's voice was obviously a little shocked. Do you know it? Jian Wushuang's eyes lit up. Of course I know it. This is the Heaven Suppression Tablet. It's very famous even in the vast universe, Devil Flame said. It's very famous in the vast universe? Jian Wushuang's eyes lit up, and he became excited. Is the Heaven Suppression Tablet the most powerful treasure or a principal's treasure? This was Jian Wushuang's concern. Although he guessed that the Heaven Suppression Tablet was a principal's treasure, he was not sure. Well, Devil Flame pondered for a moment and said, the Heaven Suppression Tablet is indeed a principal's treasure, but it's a special principal's treasure. Special? Jian Wushuang's expression changed. How special? Master, since you have a Heaven Suppression Tablet, you should know that there is more than one, right? Devil Flame asked. I know that. Jian Wushuang nodded. I heard from Shen God that there are 9 Heaven Suppression Tablets. In the Quicksand Demon Realm, 3 Heaven Suppression Tablets appeared at the same time. The one in front of me is one of the 3 Heaven Suppression Tablets that appeared in the Quicksand Demon Realm. 9? Devil Flame smiled. It seems that the information Master received is not comprehensive. In fact, there are not only 9 Heaven Suppression Tablets, but many. Many? What do you mean? Jian Wushuang frowned. The rarer something was, the more valuable it was. 9 Heaven Suppression Tablets had already made the Heaven Suppression Tablets less valuable, but now Devil Flame told him that there were many Heaven Suppression Tablets. This has something to do with the origin of the Heaven Suppression Tablet. Devil Flame began to explain. First of all, this Heaven Suppression Tablet is undoubtedly a principal's treasure, and it's a suppression-type principal's treasure. However, in terms of pure power, it's slightly weaker than a normal suppression-type principal's treasure. However, in the vast universe, the value of a Heaven Suppression Tablet is definitely not lower than a normal suppression-type principal's treasure. In fact, it's even much higher. That's because the Heaven Suppression Tablet involves a powerful magic array. Magic array? Jian Wushuang raised his eyebrows. Yes, it's a magic array created by a supreme expert who has reached the top level. That supreme expert is not only ridiculously strong, but also extremely skilled in the Tao of Magic Array. Among the countless cultivators in the Tao of Magic Array in the vast universe, he can definitely rank in the top 10. The formation created by such a super great being is naturally ridiculously powerful. However, although this formation is powerful, it requires a special principal's treasure as the foundation of the formation to be able to be used. And since it's a special principal's treasure, it's naturally different from ordinary principal's treasures. Therefore, the Supreme Being spent a lot of time and energy to refine an incomparably special principal's treasure, which is this Heaven Suppression Tablet. The Heaven Suppression Tablet is the only principal's treasure that can perfectly display the power of the formation. The Supreme Being refined a total of 108 Heaven Suppression Tablets. Using these 108 Heaven Suppression Tablets as the foundation of the formation, he can display the strongest power of the formation. With this formation, the Supreme Being became a universe overlord and was invincible among the Supreme Beings. Hearing this, Jian Wushuang could not help being shocked. Universe overlord, invincible among Supreme Beings? Was Supreme Being Ling Yun also not a universe overlord, and was also known as invincible among Supreme Beings? For example, the Master of Red Cloud World, Patriarch Red Cloud, was a top-notch Supreme Being, but he was still inferior to that kind of Supreme Being, Invincible Universe Overlord. Of course, the universe is vast. Even the invincible universe overlords have the possibility of dying. The Supreme Being who created the formation died in the end. Although he died, his formation and those heaven-suppressing monoliths were left behind. Furthermore, The later generations of experts who were proficient in formations broke the formation he created and evolved into the 4 levels of this formation. The first level requires only 3 heaven suppression tablets. The second level requires 9 heaven suppression tablets. The third level requires a total of 36 heaven suppression tablets. As for the fourth level, it requires the collection of 108 heaven suppression tablets, which is the strongest power of the formation. The 108 heaven suppression tablets have long been scattered throughout the universe. Later, some experts obtained the formation, so they paid a great price and hired people to refine more heaven suppression tablets based on the heaven suppression tablets. That's why I said there are many heaven suppression tablets. But the exact number is unknown. Is that so? Jian Wushuang understood. It turned out that the heaven suppression tablet was the foundation of a powerful magic array. No wonder there were so many of them, and they were extremely precious. Master, you received information that there were 9 heaven suppression tablets. Maybe it was left behind by an expert who had gathered 9 heaven suppression tablets. This expert had gathered 9 heaven suppression tablets. So this is the information you received, Devil Flame said. Jian Wushuang nodded slightly. According to Devil Flame, the formation created by the Supreme Being had been passed down in the universe. Many people in the universe must have obtained the formation. Even if they did not obtain all 4 layers, however, it was possible to obtain the first and second layers. After the experts in the universe had obtained the formation, they would naturally try to collect the heaven suppression tablets. Some had collected 3, while others had collected 9. It was normal for them to use different powers of the formation. Devil Flame, although the heaven suppression tablet is mainly used for the array, it is a principal's supreme treasure. Even if there is only one, it should be quite powerful, right? Jian Wushuang asked. Of course. Devil Flame nodded. A single heaven suppression tablet is not as powerful as an ordinary suppression type supreme treasure, but it is a principal's supreme treasure, and it is also a suppression type supreme treasure. This power is naturally not ordinary. As far as I know, if a single heaven suppression tablet is used as an attack, its pure material attack can barely approach an ordinary attack type principal's supreme treasure. As for the suppression effect, of course, it is much more powerful than an ordinary universe supreme treasure. Hearing this, Jian Wushuang's eyes lit up. He was worried that even if he could obtain a heaven suppression tablet, it would not increase his battle strength by much. It seemed that he was thinking too much. For example, his master's battle strength was only that of a primary ruler. However, after he mastered the heaven suppression tablet, his battle strength increased by leaps and bounds, and he could rival a superior ruler. The heaven suppression tablet had obviously improved his battle strength greatly. I've made great progress in the Red Cloud world, and my grasp of the aura of the universe principles is much higher than before. I wonder how far I am from fully comprehending the first level of the secret pattern of the heaven suppression tablet. Jian Wushuang muttered. There were 3 levels of secret pattern of the heaven suppression tablet. As long as he fully comprehended the first level of secret pattern, he should be able to use it. Previously, Jian Wushuang had spent 5,000 years comprehending the heaven suppression tablet, but he had barely comprehended 20 to 30% of the first layer of secret patterns. Now that he had returned from the Red Cloud world, he should be able to comprehend more secret patterns. Sure enough, as Jian Wushuang comprehended, he found that he was very familiar with many things in the first layer of secret patterns. Half a day later, Jian Wushuang opened his eyes again. 50%. After over 10,000 years of comprehension in the Red Cloud world, I have comprehended 50% of the first layer of the secret inscription of the heaven suppression tablet. But why do I feel that the remaining 50% is much more difficult than the previous one? Jian Wushuang frowned. Master, if you want to master the heaven suppression tablet now, I'm afraid it will be very difficult. Devil Flame's voice sounded again. Why? Jian Wushuang asked. Master, if it's an ordinary principal's treasure, you can use it now. Although it's difficult to fully display the power of the principal's treasure, at least it can be used. But the heaven suppression tablet is different. Contains extremely special mysteries. I once got a heaven suppression tablet at my peak, but I sold it. But I know very well that the threshold of the heaven suppression tablet is very high. Just to use it, you must comprehend a trace of the universe's principles, Devil Flame said seriously. It's simple and practical, but I have to comprehend a trace of the universe principles? Jian Wushuang frowned. He could not help feeling that the threshold for using the Heaven Suppression Tablet was too high. Previously, he thought that he only needed to comprehend the first level of the secret inscription in the Heaven Suppression Tablet to master it. Although the first level of the secret inscription was extremely difficult with his comprehension ability, he only needed sufficient time to comprehend it. But now it seemed that it was not so simple. No, Jian Wushuang's expression suddenly changed. Master mastered the Heaven Suppression Tablet, so his strength increased dramatically. He jumped from a primary ruler to a superior ruler. Could it be that Master had comprehended a trace of universe principles? Jian Wushuang was shocked. Yes, Master is a genius. He could even create a special secret skill, such as the Heaven Cleaving skill, and he spent a long time and a lot of money to develop me. He also developed the Heavenly Tao cycle in the eternal chaotic world. All of these are earth-shaking techniques. In terms of strength, I may have surpassed Master at his peak, but in terms of talent, Master is far stronger than me. In this star field, I don't believe that others have comprehended a trace of the universe principles at the level of Principles Master. But if it's Master, it's completely possible. Jian Wushuang clenched his hands tightly. His master Xianxia had always been respected and admired by Jian Wushuang. This admiration was not only because Xianxia had been a great benefactor to him and his charisma, but also because of Xianxia's great contributions. For example, a perfect level life form could only be born in billions of star worlds in the vast universe, and they were all born by the universe itself. But what about Xianxia? He had spent a long time to create a second perfect level life form according to his own life form level. There was also the evolution of the eternal chaotic world, which directly evolved into a heavenly Tao cycle. Once Jian Wushuang refined it, he directly attracted the universal principles. There was also the Heaven Cleaving skill, which could coordinate with his own life form level and stimulate the innate advantage of his life form level as much as possible. Such a method was even more shocking to Shuebo, the master of Bloodwave World. All these methods were shocking, but they were all created by his master Xianxia. Now that his master had comprehended a trace of universe principles at the level of Principles Master, he was not surprised at all that he could control the Heaven Suppression Tablet. I understand now. The reason why Master's strength increased so much, from the level of a primary ruler to the level of a superior ruler, maybe the Heaven Suppression Tablet did help him a lot. But the most important thing is that he has comprehended a trace of universe principles. Any ruler who has comprehended a trace of the universe principles will have a great increase in strength. Although Master is only a Principles Master, after comprehending a trace of the universe principles, his strength will also be greatly improved. Jian Wushuang understood. After understanding this, Jian Wushuang looked at the Heaven Suppression Tablet in front of him and shook his head with a bitter smile. Master left the Heaven Suppression Tablet to me because he wanted me to comprehend the secret inscription in the Heaven Suppression Tablet and eventually grasp and comprehend a trace of the universe principles step by step. If I really did this, I might be able to comprehend a trace of the universe principles, but it would take too long. Jian Wushuang sighed lightly. He had only comprehended 50% of the first level of the secret inscription of the Heaven Suppression Tablet, only half of it. The remaining 50% of the secret inscription was very difficult for Jian Wushuang. It was much more difficult to comprehend than the previous 50%. He estimated that if he stayed under the Heaven Suppression Tablet to comprehend the secret inscription, it would take him at least 40,000 to 50,000 years to fully comprehend the first level of the secret inscription. 40,000 to 50,000 years? It was too long for Jian Wushuang. He could not afford to wait, nor could he afford to wait in the divine beginning realm. Therefore, he could only find other ways and continue to take risks. For example, he had to go to the dark magic region, even though it was full of dangers and dangers. It seems that I have to wait until I come out of the dark magic region to comprehend the secret inscription in the Heaven Suppression Tablet. Jian Wushuang sighed lightly. He did not leave, but sat down cross-legged in the empty space beside him. A lot of information began to appear in his mind. This information was about the dragon exterminating secret skill. Jian Wushuang had gained a lot from his trip to the Red Cloud world. Not only did he gain a lot of supreme treasures, but he also gained many opportunities in the Red Cloud world, which greatly increased his strength. At the same time, he also obtained an extremely powerful secret skill. This secret skill was the dragon exterminating secret skill. However, even though he had obtained this secret technique, he had been busy comprehending and improving his power in the Red Cloud world. He had not spent any time to truly cultivate this secret technique. At this point, he had already decided to venture into the Dark Demon region. Before he truly entered the Dark Demon region, he would definitely cultivate the first volume of the Dragon Annihilation secret technique. This way, he would also have another trump card. After entering the Dark Magic region, his ability to survive would be stronger. The Dragon Exterminating secret skill is the Divine Power Burning secret skill. This secret skill is indeed very useful to me. Jian Wushuang sat cross-legged and began to cultivate according to the information in the first volume of the Dragon Exterminating secret skill. Although it was called Cultivation, the most important thing in this secret skill was how to control the divine power more accurately. After all, once the divine power started to burn, it would burn up all the divine power. If one wanted to make it stop, one had to have extremely precise control over the divine power. Simply put, it was the use and control of the divine power. In this star area, there were actually some simple techniques to use and control the divine power. Some techniques could even let the cultivator control the divine power to burn up. However, the techniques to use divine power in the star area were too low level. Once you used divine power to burn, it was almost impossible to stop. Only when the cultivator's divine power was completely burned out would he stop. However, his divine power had been completely burned out. Without divine power in his body, he would naturally lose his vitality. This cultivator would definitely die. Moreover, even if he did not care about anything else, at the standard of the cultivators in this star field, burning his divine power crazily could only increase his power by several times at most, compared to the secret skill of Dragon Extermination, which could increase the power by 100 times at any time. It was completely different. The control of divine power of this secret skill of Dragon Extermination is actually so fine. Jian Wushuang was more and more surprised as he cultivated the Dragon Exterminating secret skill. This perfect control of divine power was also a great benefit to him. 12 years passed in a flash. During these 12 years, Jian Wushuang stayed here to meditate and cultivate the Dragon Exterminating secret skill. After 12 years, he finally mastered the first volume of the Dragon Exterminating secret skill. Jian Wushuang sat cross-legged in the open space next to the Heaven Suppression Tablet. He did not emit any aura, and there was not even a trace of divine power circulating on his body. It looked as if his divine power had been exhausted, but in fact, it was just Jian Wushuang's perfect control of divine power. In the past 12 years, after practicing the Dragon Exterminating secret skill, he was indeed much stronger than before. I wonder how much my strength will increase if I use the first volume of the Dragon Exterminating secret skill with all my strength. Jian Wushuang's eyes were shining. Let's try it. Without hesitation, Jian Wushuang immediately activated the Dragon Exterminating secret skill. In an instant, Jian Wushuang felt a burst of heat in his body, and then his divine power began to burn crazily, like dry wood encountering a raging fire. The burning of divine power made Jian Wushuang's expression a little painful. This burning of divine power is really painful. Fortunately, my consciousness is strong enough so I won't be affected too much. However, the speed at which my divine power is being consumed is indeed a little frightening. Jian Wushuang could feel the rapid consumption of divine power in his body. It was very normal. The secret skill of divine power burning was something that would make many 4th and 5th level rulers change their expressions. Such a secret skill was an absolute trump card for many experts in the universe. They would never use it unless they were in a life and death situation. Jian Wushuang's divine power was as vast as the sea because of his perfect life. It was thousands of times more than that of an ordinary principles master, so he could barely withstand the speed at which his divine power was being consumed. However, After burning my divine power has increased a lot. Jian Wushuang clenched his hands and felt the terrifying power contained in them. The crazy burning of his divine power had greatly compressed his divine power and made it 100 times stronger than before. After all, Jian Wushuang's own divine power was comparable to that of a primary ruler. The sudden increase of his divine power by 100 times made his basic divine power comparable to or even better than that of an ordinary superior ruler. Jian Wushuang had several secret skills, which would greatly increase his strength. For example, the life divine power and heaven-cleaving skill would greatly increase his divine power. Most importantly, Jian Wushuang also had the power of the will given by the universal laws, which could double the original power of Jian Wushuang. All in all, Jian Wushuang's sudden burst of power had completely surpassed the level of the first-level ruler. The power of my basic divine power is much stronger than that of an ordinary superior ruler. If my secret skills are used at the same time and the power given by the universal law is superimposed on each other, my strongest burst of power should be comparable to that of an advanced ruler of the second level. Jian Wushuang muttered. He had never met or exchanged blows with a second-tier high-level ruler before. However, he had judged the difference between the first-tier rulers. If he used the Dragon Destruction secret technique at full strength, he could barely reach that level of power. The power of a second-tier high-level ruler and my understanding of Sword Dao has long surpassed that of a second-tier ruler. I can even match a third-tier ruler. In addition, I have many true treasures, including the Mystic Light Sky-Escaping Wings, the Triple Magic Light Mirror, the Mountain River Map, the Netherworld Divine Sword, and the Dark Gold Magic Dragon Armor. My current combat power has reached the peak of this star field. I'm afraid that very few of the top experts in the history of this star field are as good as me. Jian Wushuang was not boasting, but he was right. After all, this star field was a remote place in the universe. There were not many rulers here. The rulers at the top of the first level were almost the strongest, and it was rare to see a ruler at the second level. Ruler Kuan Yu, who had passed the test at the foot of the heaven-treading mountain, was relatively rare. Moreover, in this star field, once those rulers reached the second level, they would not stay here for too long. They would soon choose to leave for other star fields in the universe. After all, second-level rulers, they were absolutely invincible in this star field. As the saying went, experts were lonely. If they stayed in this star field long enough, they would choose to leave. It would not take long for Master Kuan Yu to leave this star field. Therefore, Jian Wushuang's current battle strength was among the top experts in the history of this star field. It was not empty words. In fact, with his current battle strength, he could also prepare to explore other star fields in the universe. However, he had too many responsibilities and the crisis of the divine beginning realm, so he could not leave. With my current strength, it's difficult for me to improve in a short time. It's time for me to explore the dark magic region. Of course, before I leave, I'll stay with my parents for a while. Jian Wushuang let out a sigh of relief and then set off. The dark magic region was too dangerous. Although Jian Wushuang was very confident in his current strength and life-saving methods, he was not absolutely sure that he could walk out of it alive. Therefore, before he set off, he naturally had to spend time with his parents, relatives, and friends. However, he did not stay too long because of the time constraint. He set off after only 3 years. When he left, he did not mention the danger to his parents. He did not want his parents and his many relatives and friends to worry about him. Star Palace. My young friend, over the past 10 years, my Star Palace has tried to collect some information about the dark magic region for you. The information here is either true or false. We can't explain it clearly. You should go and find out for yourself. In short, the dark magic region is not like other places. It is full of dangers. You must be careful when you travel alone. Taoist Xian God exhorted. I understand. Jian Wushuang nodded and took the report from Taoist Xian God. He took a quick glance at it and nodded slightly. There were some valuable things in the report, but there were still many things that could not be confirmed. He could only go on his own to explore and distinguish between them. Everyone, I'll be going now. Please take care of my relatives in the divine beginning realm for me, Jian Wushuang said. Well, come back soon. Taoist Xian God. Temporal Temple Master, Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master, and Heaven Ancestor watched Jian Wushuang leave. They knew that Jian Wushuang was going to fight for more life in the divine beginning realm. One of the three great battlefields, Devil Smoke Valley. In the deepest part of the valley, the world was filled with a hazy black fog. This black fog contained a lethal poison. If an ordinary ruler of principles were to stay a little longer in this black fog-filled void, it was very likely that their divine power would be completely eroded and evaporated. This was already a forbidden area for principles rulers. Those who dared to come here were usually ruler-level experts who could resist the erosion of the black fog. For example, there was a bald, black-clothed old man who was currently adventuring in this black fog-filled area. This bald, black-clothed old man was the ruler Wu Yin. In this star field, he could be considered a relatively famous ruler. Of course, he was only a low-level ruler and his power was only average. The black fog in the deepest part of Devil Smoke Valley is terrifying. Although I'm a ruler, I can barely resist the erosion of the fog. I can't stay in the black fog for too long. Otherwise, I might not be able to resist the erosion of the fog. Fortunately, though I've only been in the black fog for less than 100 years, I still managed to get a pinnacle true treasure. This trip was worth it, said Ruler Wu Yin with a smile. A pinnacle true treasure, even if it was just an ordinary attack-type true treasure, was enough to make a low-level ruler like him take it seriously. To be able to get such a true treasure in nearly 100 years was already quite a good harvest. Even though he had been adventuring in the Red Cloud world for the past 10,000 years, he had only been able to acquire a pinnacle true treasure and a few top-tier true treasures. In the Red Cloud world, he had only been able to acquire a pinnacle true treasure and a few top-tier true treasures. Although many true treasures had been born, the competition for them had been intense. Although he was a ruler, there were many rulers in the Red Cloud world who were stronger than him. However, the area covered by the black fog was different. Very few rulers had been adventuring here in the past 100 years. He hadn't encountered a single ruler, and no one could compete with him. When he had sensed the birth of a true treasure in the black fog, he had immediately rushed over and easily obtained the pinnacle true treasure. Of course, although there were not many people competing with him in the black fog, the danger it contained was enormous. If he was not careful, he, a ruler, might die. Thus, he had been very careful during the past 100 years. Now, he found that it was getting more and more difficult for him to resist the black fog. Therefore, he had decided to leave the area of the black fog first and come back after he had gone out to recuperate. The area of the black fog isn't too big, and I've remembered all the routes in this area. As long as I'm careful, I shouldn't encounter any danger. The ruler Wu Yin murmured. He had already begun to slowly move out of the black fog. He did not move very quickly, so he did not run into any danger. However, just as he passed by a dense dark red forest, his heart instantly tightened. It's the dark demon region. According to legends, even top-tier rulers have a slim chance of surviving the dark demon region. Anyone below that level will definitely die if they enter. The dark magic region is one of the most dangerous places in Devil Smoke Valley. Given my level of power, I probably won't even know how I died if I accidentally entered it. I have to be careful. I can't accidentally enter it. Ruler Yin Magus knew that the dark red forest was where the dark magic region was located. Having a certain level of understanding of the dark magic region, he became even more cautious as he moved forward. He didn't dare to approach the dark red forest at all. But suddenly, the chief ruler Wu Yin's expression suddenly changed. Someone's here. He had already noticed that a figure had appeared in the void not too far ahead. That figure was hidden by the gray fog. Although he could not see his face clearly, there was no doubt that the person who dared to come to the deepest part of Devil Smoke Valley and wander around the area covered by the black fog was definitely a true expert. However, as the figure gradually approached, he was stunned when his soul power could detect his aura. This aura is only that of a principal's master? Ruler Yin Wu was extremely surprised, but as the figure gradually appeared in his sight, he felt relieved. Blood Sword Master, so it's him. Ruler Yin Wu nodded secretly. Among the many principal's masters in this star field, there were only a few who dared to come to this area of black fog. Jian Wushuang was undoubtedly one of them. It's said that Blood Sword Master fought head-on with Doom Ruler in the Red Cloud world. Even Doom Ruler himself admitted that he has the battle strength of a superior ruler. Although he's only a principal's master, he's much stronger than me in terms of strength. Ruler Wu Yin sighed secretly. Although he knew that Jian Wushuang was very powerful, he was not afraid. After all, he had no enmity with Jian Wushuang and had no quarrel with Star Palace. With Jian Wushuang's current strength and status, he should not have attacked him for no reason. As expected, Jian Wushuang arrived. After seeing Ruler Wu Yin, he smiled faintly and said, "Ruler Wu Yin, are you wandering here?" "Yes, I've long heard of Blood Sword Master's name. I didn't have the chance to meet him before. I didn't expect to meet him in the Black Fog." Lord Wu Yin smiled, but there was a hint of flattery in his words. "Blood Sword Master, are you also here to explore the Black Fog and look for opportunities?" Lord Wu Yin asked casually. "Sort of." Jian Wushuang nodded slightly. "Then you have to be careful. The Black Fog is full of unknown dangers. The Black Fog that surrounds you at all times is only one of them. There are many dangers lurking in the Black Fog. In addition, there is a special place in the Black Fog, which is the Dark Magic region where the Dark Red Forest is located. The Dark Magic region is an amazing place. Blood Sword Master, it's better for you to stay away from it," Ruler Wu Yin said. "Oh!" Jian Wushuang raised his eyebrows and said, "Lord Wu Yin, thank you." After saying that, Jian Wushuang had already rushed toward the Dark Red Forest. "You're welcome." Lord Wu Yin smiled and wanted to continue chatting with Jian Wushuang. However, he saw Jian Wushuang moving, and Jian Wushuang was heading toward the Dark Red Forest. "Blood Sword Master, that's the Dark Magic region," Lord Wu Yin shouted. "I know." Jian Wushuang moved. "But that's where I'm going." After saying that, Jian Wushuang rushed into the Dark Red Forest without looking back. He broke into the Dark Magic region? Lord Wu Yin's eyes widened in astonishment. He had just reminded Jian Wushuang to stay away from the Dark Red Forest. But in the blink of an eye, Jian Wushuang broke into the Dark Magic region. He should have known the location of the Dark Magic region and the dangers it contains, but he still broke into it. How dare the Blood Sword Master? Master Yin Wu shook his head and sighed. The Dark Magic region was a taboo for ordinary rulers. No one dared to enter it. For example, Master Yin Wu was extremely cautious when he passed by the Dark Magic region. He was afraid that he would accidentally enter it. Jian Wushuang, on the other hand, knew how dangerous the Dark Magic region was, but he still dared to enter it. This was extraordinary. "No, Blood Sword Master has entered the Dark Magic region. I must let my good friends know about it immediately." Lord Wu Yin immediately took out token after token and sent a message. Although Lord Wu Yin was a solitary expert and did not have any forces behind him, he still had some good friends at the level of a master. He told his good friends about Jian Wushuang's intrusion into the Dark Magic region, and his friends kept spreading the news. Soon, almost all the top experts in the star area knew about it. The Blood Sword Master actually broke into the Dark Magic region? He's really brave. The Sky Rock ruler, who had reached the top level in the North Sea Palace, could not help but exclaim in surprise when he heard the news. Even he was extremely afraid of the Dark Magic region and did not dare to break into it. But Jian Wushuang did. When he came to me under the guidance of the Shen God, he was still very young. At that time, he only used some tricks to deceive me with the Netherworld Divine Sword. I didn't expect that after only 20,000 years, he could already rival a top master. Moreover, he even dared to enter the Dark Magic region, which even I did not dare to enter. The Sky Rock ruler could not help but sigh. The younger generation was stronger than the younger. Although Jian Wushuang was very young in his eyes, and he was only a junior, judging from his strength, even he had to take him seriously. Now that Jian Wushuang had gone to the Dark Demon region, he was even more shocked. The Dark Demon region is very dangerous. Even a superior ruler would have a narrow escape. It would be fine if Blood Sword Master died there, but if he finally walked out of the Dark Demon region, it would be really terrifying. By then, I'm afraid that even the North Sea Palace can't afford to offend him. In the dark blood-colored demon palace, ruler Kuan Yu sat on the throne at the very top. He held a cup of blood-colored wine in his hand as he gently swayed it. The dark demon region, 100,000 years ago, when my strength was at a bottleneck and I was unable to improve any further, I considered whether or not I should venture into the dark demon region. I struggled and hesitated for thousands of years, but I did not truly make up my mind. It was only after I was lucky enough to obtain an opportunity and my strength broke through that I gave up on the idea of venturing into the dark demon region. Even I, an old man who has lived for hundreds of millions of years and experienced countless hardships, have to hesitate for a long time before entering the dark magic region. I still can't make a decision. However, Blood Sword Master is only a principles master. He has only cultivated for a short period of time and is so young. How could he go to the dark magic region so decisively? Ruler Kuan Yu secretly praised Jian Wushuang. In his heart, he also compared himself to Jian Wushuang. He even thought that if he was Jian Wushuang, he was so young and was only a principles master, but he had the battle strength to rival a superior ruler. With such terrifying talent and potential, he would definitely not take such a risk to explore the dark magic region. What an amazing little fellow! Just in terms of courage, I can't compare to him. I hope he can walk out of the dark demon region alive. Moreover, it would be best if he does so within the next 1,000 years. Ruler Kuan Yu smiled faintly. 1,000 years. The reason it was 1,000 years was because Ruler Kuan Yu had already made a decision. After 1,000 years, he would leave the star field and venture into even more vast star fields. After all, although he had only fused 5 rules and was still a first-level ruler, his battle strength must have reached the peak of the second-level primary ruler if he could pass the test at the foot of Heaven-Treading Mountain. Such battle strength was invincible in this star field, except for Jian Wushuang. Since he was invincible and the Red Cloud world had opened not long ago, it would take hundreds of millions of years to open the next time, so he naturally would not wait any longer. Although there were still a lot of opportunities in the 3 battlefields, he did not plan to stay any longer. He wanted to explore more vast places and see more experts. He was not the only one. In this star field, generally, as long as a ruler with second-level battle strength had nothing to worry about in the star field, he would choose to leave. The news that Jian Wushuang had ventured into the dark magic region caused a great shock in the star field. No one had expected that the Blood Sword Master, who was only a principles master and had incredible talent and potential, would actually go to the dark magic region at this time. Indeed, in the eyes of many people, Jian Wushuang was courting death. After all, in the dark magic region, even a superior ruler would have a slim chance of surviving. Although Jian Wushuang had the battle strength to rival a superior ruler, he was still a principles master. When a principles master entered, most of the experts in this star area did not think that Jian Wushuang would survive. Therefore, the rumor in the star area was that Jian Wushuang, the most dazzling genius in history, was about to die. The dark red forest was cold, and even the air was filled with a chill. Jian Wushuang flew in the air above the dark red forest alone. According to the information collected by Shen God and the others, there are 2 known dangers in the dark magic region. The first one is the fog that pervades every corner of the dark magic region. Jian Wushuang surrounded the surrounding void, which was filled with a large amount of faint red fog that could be seen by the naked eye. This faint red fog was similar to the black fog that covered the area outside the dark magic region. The black fog contained a lethal poison that could easily kill principles masters. Even a primary ruler could barely resist the erosion of the fog, but after a long time, he had to leave to recuperate. For example, Ruler Wu Yin had stayed in the black fog for too long before he was ready to leave. However, the black fog could not be compared to the red fog in the dark demon region. The red fog in the dark demon region was also poisonous. Even the thinnest light red fog was dozens of times more corrosive than the black fog in the outside world. Ordinary low-level rulers would not be able to withstand such a poison. Even senior rulers had to have powerful protective true treasures to be able to move around in the dark demon region normally. And this was only the light red fog. There was also a dark red fog in the dark demon region, and there was a blood-red fog that looked like pure blood. These two types of fog were scattered randomly in the dark demon region, and some of them were hidden in the light red fog. For example, if you looked at it with the naked eye, you would see a patch of faint red fog in front of you, but if you passed through it, you would most likely encounter a dark red fog, or even a blood-colored fog. The dark red fog and the blood-colored fog were far more terrifying than the faint red fog. This was especially true for the blood-colored fog. According to the information Taoist Shen God and the others had gathered, even if a supreme ruler was trapped within the blood-colored fog, in a few breaths' time, his divine power would be completely eroded and evaporated. There was once a superior ruler who was lucky enough to walk out of the dark magic region and accidentally fell into the bloody mist. In less than 3 breaths, 70% of his divine power had been eroded. Fortunately, the bloody mist was not too big, so he managed to escape in time. Otherwise, the superior ruler would not have survived. In terms of divine body, I have cultivated the first level of the supreme eternal celestial body, and my divine body is comparable to a primary supreme treasure. This divine body is much more powerful than a superior ruler of the first level. I also have the most powerful supreme treasure armor, and my divine power is much greater than a ruler's. The faint red mist alone cannot affect me. However, if I fall into the dark red mist, I have to be careful. As for the blood-colored fog, even a superior ruler can't last for more than a few breaths. I might last longer than an ordinary superior ruler, but I won't be able to withstand it in the end, Jian Wushuang murmured softly. Jian Wushuang was well aware of the dangers of the dark magic region, so he naturally did not dare to be arrogant. He was naturally very careful about the fog, which was one of the 2 known dangers of the dark magic region. As for the second known danger of the dark demon region, it was the dark red monsters scattered throughout the dark demon region. The dark red monsters were the words of a top ruler who had walked out of the dark demon region. No one knew the name of the dark red monster. However, the dark red monsters were extremely terrifying and hated outsiders. In the dark demon region, if one encountered a dark red monster and was discovered by the other party, those dark red monsters would immediately attack them in a frenzy, vowing to kill them. Back then, of the 3 top rulers who had emerged from the dark demon region, 2 of them had left behind information regarding the dark demon region. Both of them had mentioned that the weakest of those dark red monsters was a high ruler. Their battle prowess was even close to that of a top ruler. The slightly stronger ones were at the level of a top ruler. Most importantly, there weren't only 1 or 2 dark red monsters in the dark demon region. There were quite a few of them. No one knew exactly how many there were, but a supreme ruler who came out alive once said that he had encountered 8 dark red monsters in one go. 6 of them were average in strength, but 2 of them were extremely terrifying. All of them had superior protective battle strength. With 8 dark red monsters attacking at the same time, the superior ruler had no choice but to flee in embarrassment. Dark red monsters live in the dark magic region all year round. Although their strength is extremely terrifying, their intelligence seems to be very low. Devil Flame, you have been roaming the universe for so many years. Do you know what these dark red monsters are? Jian Wushuang asked. Master, the universe is too huge and vast. There are all kinds of life forms and all kinds of races. Although I have been in the universe for a long time and have seen it in the depths of the universe, I don't know more than 10% of all the life forms in the universe. I can't recognize this dark red monster without seeing it. Maybe I'll be able to recognize it when I see a dark red monster, Devil Flame said. Jian Wushuang nodded slightly. He was not surprised. The universe was large and there must be a lot of life groups. Devil Flame had never seen a dark red monster, so it was normal that he could not recognize it directly. The information collected by the Shen God mentioned the 2 known dangers in the dark demon region. However, we don't know much about the dark demon region. There might be other dangers in the dark demon region, but I don't know about them yet. The 2 known dangers are enough to make me take them seriously. Jian Wushuang narrowed his eyes. I have to be careful when I travel in the dark magic region. After all, I only have 1 life. If I lose my life here, the divine beginning realm will be finished. My parents, my family, and my friends will all be finished, and Shuang-Er, Her soul is still sleeping. I haven't been reunited with her yet. I can't die like this. Taking a deep breath, Jian Wushuang began to carefully inspect his surroundings. His soul power had already swept out. However, his soul power was greatly limited in the dark magic region. In the Red Cloud world, his soul power was also limited, but he could still detect a range of 100,000 kilometers. But now, in the dark magic region, he could only detect a range of thousands of kilometers. Yes, only a few thousand miles. For an ordinary ruler, a distance of several thousand miles could be covered in an instant. With such a narrow range of soul perception, his movements in this dark demon region were restricted even more. Although I have the most powerful domain-type true treasure, the 3-layered Devil Light Mirror, one of the 3-layered Devil Light Mirror's domain attacks can instantly cover an area of 1 million miles. At the same time, I can cover the layers of Devil Light with my soul power, so I can detect movements within an area of 1 million miles. However, I have just arrived in the dark magic region and am unfamiliar with everything here. If I recklessly use the triple magic light mirror to attack an area of 1 million miles, the movements will be too big. Who knows what will happen? Jian Wushuang pondered. The triple magic light mirror was too noisy, so Jian Wushuang could not use it easily. Therefore, he could only rely on his soul perception range of thousands of miles to travel carefully in the dark magic region. An hour later, Jian Wushuang suddenly stopped in the void and looked around. He could sense the extremely violent and brutal aura 3,000 miles away. I finally found a dark red monster? Jian Wushuang's soul power had completely locked onto the brutal aura. At the same time, he also saw the true appearance of the dark red monster. It was nearly 3 meters tall, dark red in color, but its body was relatively thin and weak. The dark red monster had 2 eyes on its face, a nose and a mouth, but they were all twisted together, making it look extremely ferocious. Its 2 arms were very long, just like a saber. They also gave off a dark red, cold luster and were obviously very sharp. Its hands are just like a saber? Jian Wushuang raised his eyebrows. He had already discovered the existence of the dark red monster, but the latter did not seem to have noticed him. Devil Flame, do you recognize this monster? Jian Wushuang asked. No, Devil Flame shook his head. This monster gives me a strange feeling. I'm sure I've never seen such a monster before. But if I can't recognize it from its appearance, I'll have to fight with it to see what's special about it and what tricks it has, Jian Wushuang said. Master, you want to fight with this monster? Devil Flame was surprised. Of course, the 2 most dangerous things in the dark magic region are the red fog and this dark red monster. As long as I'm careful, the red fog won't pose any threat to me. But this dark red monster is different. After a pause, Jian Wushuang continued, there are many dark red monsters in the dark magic region, and I just happened to meet one now. It's a good opportunity to fight with this dark red monster and find out its background. Then, when I travel in the dark magic region, even if I meet more dark red monsters at once, at least I'll have a sense of confidence, instead of not knowing anything and not knowing whether I should flee or fight. Yes, Devil Flame nodded. Indeed, a dark red monster was no threat to Jian Wushuang. However, it was a good opportunity to have a rough understanding of this monster. Devil Flame, you have to look carefully and try to identify this monster, Jian Wushuang said. I'll try my best. Devil Flame nodded solemnly. Jian Wushuang moved and rushed toward the dark red monster. Jian Wushuang was able to cover a distance of 3,000 kilometers in the blink of an eye. However, he did not go forward immediately. Instead, he slowly approached it. This dark red monster has very low intelligence. Not only can it not detect the soul like human cultivators, but it also seems to have a weak perception. I was 3,000 kilometers away, so it's understandable that it didn't notice me. But now I'm only 200 kilometers away from it. How could it not notice me? Jian Wushuang was very surprised. After all, he did not use any secret skill to conceal his aura or figure. He just approached his opponent normally. If it were a human cultivator, he would have noticed it long ago. Even some exotic beasts and fierce beasts with slightly sharper senses could already sense the arrival of danger. However, The dark red monster, which was being stared at by Jian Wushuang, did not react at all. Obviously, it had not noticed Jian Wushuang's arrival. Jian Wushuang continued to approach. 180 miles, 150 miles, until Jian Wushuang was only 100 miles away from the dark red monster. Roar! With a low roar, the dark red monster finally made a difference. It stood up with a leap, and its cold dark golden eyes looked directly in Jian Wushuang's direction. You only discovered it now? Jian Wushuang grinned, but his speed suddenly increased. A strange stream of light instantly streaked across the void, covering an area of 50 kilometers. Jian Wushuang had already appeared in front of the dark red monster, and at the same time, the netherworld divine sword had appeared in his hand. Shi Xiang. Jian Wushuang casually slashed out with his sword. The sword light, with endless violent aura, cut through the void, causing the light red fog around to become chaotic. Jian Wushuang was too fast. Although the dark red monster had discovered Jian Wushuang's existence, its reaction was still slower than before. Seeing the violent sword light slashing over, the dark red monster raised its two arms at the same time. The two arms, which were like battle sabers, crossed together and blocked in front of him. Clang! With a crisp sound, the dark red monster's body suddenly sank, and then its entire body was sent flying. Finally, it crashed into a giant rock, shattering it into pieces. Only then did it stop. Ha! Jian Wushuang frowned slightly. Although I didn't use my full strength with my high comprehension of the origin of sword principle, the power of my sword is definitely at the level of a superior ruler. However, when I hit the arm of the dark red monster, I can only leave a white mark on it. The monster's arms are so hard? After all, Jian Wushuang's swordsmanship was performed with the netherworld divine sword. When a supreme true treasure godly weapon was used, the power of the sword technique used was at the level of a top-tier ruler. If it were a human cultivator, even a senior ruler with a top-tier true treasure armor would be able to withstand such a level of sword technique. It was going to take a hell of a beating. However, this dark red monster did not have any true treasure armor. It only relied on its two arms to block the power of the sword attack, and its two arms were not directly cut off by the sword light. It only left a white mark. Such arms were probably harder than ordinary elementary universe true treasures, and they were probably comparable to advanced universe true treasures. I've cultivated the first level of the supreme undying mysterious body, and my divine body is only comparable to an elementary universe true treasure. The dark red monster's two arms are actually stronger than my divine body, Jian Wushuang exclaimed. I wonder if it only has two arms that are as tough as an advanced universe supreme treasure, or if its entire divine body is so strong. Jian Wushuang's eyes flickered with a dark light. Although the dark red monster was sent flying and looked extremely miserable, it was actually not injured at all. After it stabilized itself, its dark golden eyes locked onto Jian Wushuang's body. A terrifying and brutal aura suddenly rose. Foreign people, die! A low, intermittent roar came out of the mouth of the dark red monster. Although the voice was not very clear, Jian Wushuang still heard it clearly. This dark red monster can talk? Jian Wushuang raised his eyebrows. The reason why he took the initiative to fight with the dark red monster was that he wanted to know more about the dark red monster. Now he knew that the dark red monster's two arms were extremely hard, comparable to an advanced universe supreme treasure. In addition, the dark red monster could speak simply. Boom! The dark red monster turned into a red stream of light and rushed up. Jian Wushuang only felt a surge of evil aura pressing toward him. This evil aura is really strong. Jian Wushuang sighed. The dark red monster extended its arms like two sharp sabers. Swish! Swish! As the dark red monster swung its arms, the air was immediately cut open, and two cold-blooded saber lights chopped down on its head. Not only were the two saber lights extremely powerful, but they also contained a strong sense of destruction, and even the saber lights themselves were quite mysterious. Saber skills. This dark red monster clearly has very low intelligence, but it can also use saber skills. Moreover, this saber skill is quite exquisite. Jian Wushuang was surprised. However, although the saber skills of the dark red monster were quite exquisite, they were nothing in front of Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang's body flashed, and then he easily passed through the gap between the two saber lights. He was already approaching the dark red monster. Jian Wushuang casually thrust the netherworld divine sword forward. A blood-red flower bud seemed to have bloomed. The dark red monster's chest directly exploded, revealing a bowl-sized bloody hole. The white bones in its body could be clearly seen through the bloody hole. Fortunately, the monster's arms are very hard, but the other parts of its body have not reached that level, Jian Wushuang said calmly. His sword attack just now did not increase in power, just like the sword attack on the arm of the dark red monster. But the previous sword attack only left a white mark on the arm of the dark red monster. But now, the sword attack on the chest of the dark red monster broke the surface defense of the dark red monster and hurt it. Obviously, the dark red monster's body was not as hard as an advanced universe supreme treasure. Jian Wushuang estimated that the other parts of its body were only comparable to an elementary universe supreme treasure. However, this monster is indeed very strong. It's very close to a superior ruler. In addition, its saber technique is not very durable. This battle strength is indeed very strong among advanced rulers. Perhaps one or two of them is nothing, but if there are 6 or 7 of them together, they can indeed pose a threat to an ordinary superior ruler, Jian Wushuang thought. Jian Wushuang had been studying the dark red monster. However, the dark red monster was already furious, especially after Jian Wushuang had broken its chest with his sword. The dark red monster had low intelligence, so it did not know how to distinguish the strength of its opponent. It did not even know the law of the jungle. Born in the dark magic region, the dark red monster only knew one thing. As long as it was an outsider, it had to kill it at all costs. Kill, kill! A series of low roars were heard, and the dark red monster charged again. Jian Wushuang also tried to fight it, but he found that the bloody hole in the dark red monster's chest had been completely repaired and there was no trace left. The monster's strength was still at its peak. Immortal body? No, this monster doesn't have divine power at all. It just uses the muffled power of its body. It's completely different from a cultivator at the ruler level. It shouldn't have an immortal body, but its injuries have been completely healed. Jian Wushuang casually attacked and completely suppressed the dark red monster. However, he did not kill it directly. Instead, he deliberately reserved his strength to fight with the dark red monster. He wanted to understand the dark red monster more deeply. Soon, dozens of breaths passed. This monster is really stupid. Its strength is obviously far inferior to mine. No matter how crazy it is, it will still be easily crushed by me. However, from the beginning of the fierce battle until now, it has no intention of escaping. Obviously, it can't beat me, but it still wants to kill me crazily. Jian Wushuang shook his head with a smile, but he was pondering in his heart. I have a good understanding of the monster's strength, speed, and methods. The only thing I don't understand is its body composition. I don't know whether it really has an immortal body. In this case, there is no need to tangle with it. A fierce light flashed in Jian Wushuang's eyes. Whoosh! A shadow flashed and a dazzling sword light lit up at the same time. The entire head of the dark red monster had been thrown away. Then Jian Wushuang blew a breath and a sword light directly crushed the head. Is it dead? Jian Wushuang stared at the body of the dark red monster in front of him. Although it had lost its head, the body of the dark red monster was still moving freely. His 2 arms were still crazily slashing at Jian Wushuang. It's not dead. Jian Wushuang's expression changed slightly. After dodging the saber light of the dark red monster, he saw that the head of the dark red monster had grown back. Jian Wushuang attacked again. First, he crushed the head of the dark red monster. Then, he pierced the heart of the dark red monster with his sword. Finally, he used a huge divine power attack to crush the entire body of the dark red monster. However, the dark red monster was still beautiful. It was alive and full of battle strength. What's going on? Jian Wushuang frowned. This monster's body is extremely tough. Although my attacks can hurt it, it's difficult to destroy it on a large scale. It obviously doesn't have an immortal body, but how can its injuries be healed instantly, including its head and heart? He clearly had the strength to crush the dark red monster, but now he could not kill it. No, this dark red monster must have a weakness, but I haven't found it yet. Jian Wushuang narrowed his eyes slightly. Devil Flame, who was in the blood-red gourd, had been paying attention to the outside world. Just like Jian Wushuang, he had been observing the dark red monster. After seeing that the dark red monster's head and heart were instantly repaired, Devil Flame immediately thought of a group. Abdomen Master, attack his abdomen. Devil Flame's voice sounded in Jian Wushuang's mind. Abdomen? Jian Wushuang's expression changed. Yes, it's best if you can directly pierce through his abdomen with one sword, Devil Flame said. Jian Wushuang did not hesitate. His body moved strangely and easily moved around the dark red monster. Then a hazy sword shadow lit up. There was only one sword shadow, but at first glance, it looked like countless thin lines. The dark red monster tried to wave its saber-like arms to block it, but it only blocked a small part of the thin lines. Most importantly, it failed to block Jian Wushuang's sword shadow hidden in the thin lines. The hazy sword shadow pierced the dark red monster's abdomen with a sharp edge. The terrifying power penetrated the dark red monster's abdomen on the spot. Bang! A crisp sound like glass breaking was heard. The dark red monster's eyes were still filled with anger and madness, but its voice had disappeared, and its two saber-like arms drooped down. Dead. Jian Wushuang looked at the dark red monster's corpse in astonishment. Previously, he had chopped off the dark red monster's head and shattered it. At the same time, he had shattered the monster's heart. However, the monster did not die, but immediately recovered. But now, he had pierced through the dark red monster's abdomen with his sword, and it was dead? Obviously, the dark red monster's weakness was in its abdomen. As expected, as expected. Devil Flame's excited voice sounded. Devil Flame, did you recognize it? Jian Wushuang asked. Yes, if I'm not mistaken. This dark red monster should be the rarely seen blood-colored ghost demon in the vast universe, Devil Flame said. Blood-colored ghost demon? Jian Wushuang frowned. Although blood-colored ghost demon is a race, it's completely different from most of the races in the universe, Devil Flame said. Most of the races in the universe were born by the universe in the beginning. After a long time of reproduction, they gradually formed into a race. But the blood-colored Yumo is different. This race was not born by the universe, but by the life of another race. Another race? What do you mean? Jian Wushuang was puzzled. Master, the blood-colored Yumo actually originated from an extremely terrifying race in the universe, the Immortal Ghost Clan. Devil Flame explained. The Immortal Ghost Clan is definitely a top race among the many races in the vast universe. They are extremely powerful. In terms of talent, they are even more powerful than the special life form, Wu God, that you mentioned before. What? Jian Wushuang was shocked. More powerful than Wu God. Wu God was an extremely special life form. He was favored by the principles of heaven and earth. Even if he did not cultivate, as long as he slowly grew up and reached the peak, he would be an ultimate ruler who had integrated the nine-gate rule. Such a special life form was already unbelievable to Jian Wushuang. But the Immortal Ghost Clan was more talented than Wu God? Although Wu God is amazing, he is only an ultimate ruler at the peak of his growth. But the Immortal Ghost Clan can reach the supreme level at the peak of its growth. In terms of sheer number, the Immortal Ghost Clan is much more than Wu God. Most importantly, there is a reason why the Immortal Ghost Clan is called Immortal. The reason for this is, first of all, that every single immortal ghost is terrifyingly strong, and their life-saving abilities are the best in the universe. There is a saying in the universe, at their peak, the immortal ghosts are undefeatable. The reason why they are undefeatable is not because they are undefeatable, but because their life-saving abilities are too strong, and no one can kill them. Of course, this is an exaggeration. Although most of the supreme beings at their peak can't kill them, there are countless experts in the vast universe. The universe overlords who stand at the top of the universe and are invincible among the supreme beings can still kill them. Jian Wushuang understood. The immortal ghost might have a terrifying life-saving ability, but it was not invincible. After all, even the master of the Red Cloud world, the patriarch of the Red Cloud world, who had reached the supreme level, could be killed. Even the Ling Yun planet created by supreme-level universe overlords like Paragon Ling Yun would decline. The universe was vast and terrifying. The immortal ghost was strong in life preservation, but it was not invincible. There is a second reason. Devil Flame continued. The number of immortal ghosts has always been 99 in the universe. This is eternal. Even if one immortal ghost dies, the universe will immediately give birth to a new immortal ghost. In other words, the immortal ghost will never be extinct. As long as the cycle of the universe continues, the number of immortal ghosts will always be 99. There will never be more than 99, and there will never be less than 99. Hearing this, Jian Wushuang was extremely shocked. He finally understood how terrifying this race was and why it was called immortal. It was indeed immortal. Not only did it have incredible life-saving abilities, but more importantly, it had a special status in the universe. Even if one was killed, the universe would immediately give birth to one. Such a race was indeed immortal, and no one in the universe could destroy it. Of course, the universe is fair. Although the immortal ghost clan is powerful and eternal, they have some disadvantages. Devil Flame continued. First of all, their growth period is too long. As far as I know, an immortal ghost clan must go through hundreds of chaos cycles from birth to its peak. Hundreds of chaos cycles? Jian Wushuang was stunned. It had only been one chaos cycle since the birth and destruction of a third-grade astral world. Hundreds of chaos cycles? How many years would that take? That was a bit too long. Are all the immortal ghost demons like this? Can't they reach their peak ahead of time? Jian Wushuang asked. No. No matter how talented you are and how strong your battle strength is, you have to wait until you reach your peak in order to reach the supreme realm. To reach your peak, you have to spend hundreds of chaos cycles. But hundreds of chaos cycles are simply too long. Many of the undead specters won't even be able to last that long before they are killed during their growth period. Only a very small number of undead specters will be able to survive their peak period and become autarchs. They will truly be able to roam the universe, and even supreme autarchs won't be able to do anything to them. In addition to the long growth period, the immortal ghost demon has another weakness. Devil Flame suddenly changed the topic. In fact, it's not a weakness, but a strength. What do you mean? Jian Wushuang was surprised. It's like this. The immortal ghost demon is blessed in the universe. It's a race that countless cultivators marvel at. In the vast universe, there are less than 10 races that can be called peak races. Each race has a huge population base, but the immortal ghost demon race is still a peak race even though it only has a fixed number of 99. This race is completely favored by the universe. Because of this, their entire body is basically a treasure, Devil Flame said. Their entire body is a treasure? Jian Wushuang was stunned. Yes, their entire body is a treasure. Devil Flame smiled. The immortal ghost's divine body, blood essence, and even hair are of great value in the universe. Take the immortal ghost's divine body as an example. Even the corpse of an immortal ghost that has been dead for many years, as long as it is well preserved, is comparable to the entire wealth of an ordinary supreme being. Of course, the most precious thing about the immortal ghost is their life core, which is the source of their life force. It's a treasure that can make countless supreme beings in the vast universe go crazy over it. Life core. Jian Wushuang's expression changed. The value of a life core that could make countless supreme beings go crazy over it was imaginable. It's precisely because the immortal ghost's entire body is a treasure and its divine body and life core are too precious that most of the cultivators in the universe would think of ways to kill it the moment they see it. This can be considered their weakness, Devil Flame said. Upon hearing this, Jian Wushuang could not help but smile. The whole body was a treasure, but it became a weakness instead. In fact, it was also true that a man was not guilty of having a treasure. The entire body of an immortal ghost was a treasure. Not to mention a ruler, even an autarch would go crazy for it. This naturally caused the immortal ghost to live in the universe for less than a second. If it were not for the fact that one immortal ghost would immediately give birth to another, this race would have been gone long ago. Devil Flame, you always talk about the immortal ghost, but what is the direct relationship between the immortal ghost and the blood-colored ghost in front of me? Jian Wushuang asked. The relationship between the two is huge. Devil Flame smiled. Master, I just said that the immortal ghost's vitality is terrifying. Even if they are dead, their blood will evolve into new life after they die. This is the origin of the scarlet Yumo in front of you, Master. What did you say? Jian Wushuang was shocked. Are you saying that the dark red monster I killed was actually formed from the blood of an immortal ghost demon? Yes. Devil Flame nodded. If I'm not wrong, an immortal ghost demon once died here, and its blood evolved into a large number of blood-red ghost demons. There are so many dark red monsters in the dark magic region. Is that so? Jian Wushuang understood. Then he asked, when I fought with this dark red monster, I was able to crush its head and heart. Its vitality is really terrifying. No wonder it evolved from the blood of the immortal ghost. However, after I pierced its abdomen, it died. Of course, the core of the immortal ghost is its life core. As long as its life core is not broken, it will be fine no matter how serious the injury is. These blood-red ghosts are formed from the blood of the immortal ghost, and they also inherit some of the characteristics of the immortal ghost. Their core is also their life core, and this life core is in their abdomen. Just now, Master's sword pierced through the abdomen of the scarlet ghost and shattered its life core. It naturally died, Devil Flame said. So that's it. Jian Wushuang completely understood. No wonder when he pierced through the abdomen of the dark red monster, he heard the sound of glass breaking. This sound should be the sound of the life core breaking. Master, an immortal ghost died here, and the blood of this immortal ghost can evolve into a blood-colored ghost. This immortal ghost is likely at the peak of the supreme level. Even if he is not an supreme level, he is at least an ultimate ruler. If the corpse of such an immortal ghost is left here, it will be a huge treasure. Master, if you can get it, you will be rich, Devil Flame said excitedly. The corpse of the immortal ghost? Jian Wushuang's eyes lit up. He had just heard from Devil Flame that the corpse of the immortal ghost was comparable to the entire wealth of an ordinary supreme being. Moreover, the entire body of the immortal ghost was a treasure. Even if it was just a piece of ordinary hair, it would definitely be a priceless treasure for him, who was only a principal's master. Of course, the most important thing was the life core. Devil Flame, if there really is an immortal ghost's corpse in the dark magic region, would the life core of the immortal ghost be left behind? Jian Wushuang asked. It's impossible to have a complete life core. If the immortal ghost's life core was complete, it wouldn't have died. But since it's dead, its life core must have been shattered. Devil Flame said solemnly, but Master, although you can't get a complete life core, you might have a chance to get some life core fragments. A fragment? Jian Wushuang frowned. Just a fragment? Even if it's just a small fragment, as long as it can be preserved, it contains a great opportunity. Master, if you can get a small fragment, with the help of this fragment, you might be able to directly comprehend a trace of the universe principles, Devil Flame said. What? Jian Wushuang's heart jumped. As long as he got a small fragment of life core, he could directly comprehend a trace of universe principles? Did he not come to the dark magic region to adventure because his strength was at a bottleneck and he could not find a way to comprehend universe principles? But this life core fragment could actually help him comprehend universe principles? Opportunity. A once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Master, don't be happy too early. Devil Flame's voice sounded once again. Undying You Demon's life core fragment can indeed help you comprehend the universe principles. However, I can see that this battlefield has existed for a very long time. In such a long time, the universe power contained within the Undying You Demon's life core fragment will gradually dissipate. As long as the universe power is completely drained, the life core fragment will crumble and dissipate. After such a long time, I wonder if there are still life nuclear fragments left here. Jian Wushuang frowned. The life core fragment was extremely precious, and it was definitely a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for him. However, if there were no more life core fragments left in the dark magic region, he would feel like crying. I hope there are life core fragments left in the dark magic region. I don't need too many. 2 or 3 pieces should be enough. Jian Wushuang thought to himself. In the dark magic region, Jian Wushuang continued to move forward. He was still very slow, and his soul power covered an area of thousands of miles. Although it was only thousands of miles, it was still enough for him to find the position of the dark red monsters in advance. Moreover, the dark red monsters were formed from the blood of the immortal ghost demon. They had very low intelligence and did not know how to detect souls. As long as Jian Wushuang was not within 100 miles of them, they would not be able to discover his existence. Because of this, Jian Wushuang could easily avoid these dark red monsters along the way. In a flash, 3 days passed. Although 3 days had passed, Jian Wushuang's speed had been very slow, so he did not travel too far during these 3 days. I have been going deeper and deeper in these 3 days. I should be reaching the depths of the dark magic region soon, right? Jian Wushuang thought to himself. Of course, he did not know how big the dark magic region was. No one in this star field knew, so he was not sure whether he had reached the depths of the dark magic region. He was just guessing. After all, as he went deeper, he encountered more and more dark red monsters. And these monsters were not alone, but at least several of them gathered together. There were even more than a dozen of them gathered together. Jian Wushuang did not care about 1 or 2 of these dark red monsters, but if there were more than a dozen of them, even he would have a headache. Fortunately, he deliberately avoided these dark red monsters along the way. At this moment, there are more monsters? Jian Wushuang's soul power had already sensed the existence of a total of 8 violent auras. Those 8 auras were 8 dark red monsters. Among these 8 dark red monsters, there was one that was obviously taller than the other 7 monsters and emitted a more violent aura. It was also more powerful. What a powerful aura! It's much more powerful than ordinary dark red monsters. If I'm not mistaken, it should be a monster that can match the battle strength of a superior ruler, right? Jian Wushuang's expression changed. The intelligence he received mentioned that there were 2 types of dark red monsters. One was the most common one, which could match the battle strength of a superior ruler and was close to that of a superior ruler. The stronger one was the battle strength of a superior ruler. Obviously, the larger monster he saw now was the stronger dark red monster. I might have a headache if there are too many ordinary monsters. It's better not to provoke such a monster, which is comparable to a superior ruler. Jian Wushuang smiled faintly. He was about to go around them. But suddenly, oh no! Jian Wushuang's face suddenly changed. He had sensed that just as he was about to go around the 8 monsters, the largest and most powerful dark red monster suddenly raised its head, and a terrifying, brutal aura rose. It also rose in an instant. Roar! An earth-shaking roar suddenly reverberated in the sky. This roar was filled with endless killing intent and rushed to the sky. Intruder! Die! Die! Kill! Kill him! After the roar, a series of unclear hisses sounded. The 8 dark red monsters in Jian Wushuang's soul perception, led by the most powerful dark red monster, had already rushed toward him at an extremely fast speed. Have I been discovered? Jian Wushuang's expression was a little ugly. He had been careless. When he saw the larger dark red monster, he knew that it was very strong, comparable to a superior ruler. He also thought that this monster's perception ability might be slightly stronger than those of ordinary monsters, but it should not be very strong. Therefore, when he took a detour, he was slightly closer to it, probably about 1,000 miles away. But the stronger dark red monster actually sensed his existence from a distance of 1,000 miles. Thus, this scene occurred. 8 dark red monsters, 1 comparable to a superior ruler, 7 close to a superior ruler. Although this lineup alone cannot threaten me, since these monsters have discovered my existence, unless I burst out of here, they will always follow me and notify other monsters along the way to kill me together. But if I burst out too fast, I will create a big commotion and attract other monsters. Jian Wushuang's face turned cold. If he was in the outer area of the dark magic region, he would have fled immediately if the dark red monsters were discovered. But now he was close to the depths of the dark magic region. There were many dark red monsters here, and there were many branches. In this case, he burst out too fast and passed under the eyes of these monsters. It would attract even more monsters. I have no choice but to fight them and kill them as fast as possible. Jian Wushuang's eyes flashed with killing intent. It was the best way to end the battle quickly. Perhaps during the battle, the power would attract the surrounding monsters, but as long as he was fast enough, he could still leave first. Kill! With a low shout, the Netherworld Divine Sword appeared in Jian Wushuang's hand, and a pair of huge black wings spread out behind him. He used the Mystic Light Phantom Movement technique directly. Jian Wushuang was like a fish in the water, easily passing through the void. The 8 dark red monsters had already come at the fastest speed, but before they could reach Jian Wushuang had already met them. Buzz! A hazy sword shadow lit up. The sword shadow was like a dream and an illusion. It was intoxicating. It was like a huge sword net that covered the 8 dark red monsters in front of him at the same time. It was too fast and too strange. Except for the strongest dark red monster, the other 7 could not even see clearly how Jian Wushuang attacked. Chi! 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 The sound of 7 swords piercing into their bodies could be heard. The bodies of the 7 average dark red monsters were extremely tough, but in front of Jian Wushuang's swordsmanship, they were like pieces of paper. The bodies of the 7 monsters were cut in half from the abdomen. Their abdomens were cut open, their bodies were cut in two, and most importantly, their life cores were shattered. Once their life cores were shattered, no matter how strong the 7 monsters were, they could only die immediately. As for the strongest monster, which was comparable to a superior ruler, it waved its arm to block Jian Wushuang's sword, but its body was also directly hacked down. Jian Wushuang's body swayed, and the close-range teleportation of the Mystic Light Phantom movement followed. He appeared next to the last monster like a ghost. He stabbed the long sword in his hand, and a terrifying spiral force appeared. The space seemed to be torn apart by the sword light. The monster's body was in a sinking stage, so it had no time to block Jian Wushuang's sword. Bang! The monster's abdomen exploded, sending blood and flesh flying everywhere. The life core hidden in the abdomen was crushed by the terrifying power and collapsed at this moment. In an instant, the dark red monster, which was comparable to a superior ruler, died on the spot. In terms of strength, these monsters are indeed very strong, especially this big one. It must have the battle strength of a superior ruler to be able to block my sword just now. Unfortunately, although it has battle strength, it doesn't have an immortal body. As long as I know its weakness, it's really easy for me to kill them with my strength. Jian Wushuang smiled faintly. Jian Wushuang was calm and did not feel proud at all after killing 7 top-tier masters and a dark red monster that was comparable to a top-tier master in an instant. After all, these monsters were only formed from the blood of the immortal ghost. They had very low intelligence and had battle strength but no immortal body. They were still far inferior to human cultivators. It was easy for Jian Wushuang to defeat a superior ruler with his current strength. However, it was very difficult to kill a superior ruler such as the Sky Rock ruler. First of all, the Sky Rock ruler had an immortal body, so he had to destroy all of his divine power to kill him. Secondly, the Sky Rock ruler cultivated a protective secret skill and had a supreme treasure armor to protect his body. Even if Jian Wushuang tried his best, he could only cause some damage to Sky Rock ruler. It would take a long time to kill him. This also ensured that Sky Rock ruler would not run away. However, this dark red monster did not even have an immortal body, nor did it cultivate any secret skill or supreme treasure to protect its body. It just relied on its own body. Yes, its body was hard, however. They could not ignore Jian Wushuang's swordsmanship attacks. Moreover, the divine sword he used was the Netherworld Divine Sword, which was the strongest supreme treasure. If I really want to fight, I can kill 10 of these dark red monsters much more easily than killing a human superior ruler. Jian Wushuang sighed and waved his hand to put the 8 dark red monsters' corpses into his interspatial ring. He put them all into his interspatial ring. The bodies of these monsters were so hard that their arms were comparable to advanced universe supreme treasures. Naturally, their corpses had some special uses. After doing all this, Jian Wushuang immediately left. Just as he had expected, when he attacked, he burst out with extraordinary power. Coupled with the roars of the monsters, he did attract many monsters around him. Unfortunately, Jian Wushuang was too fast. He killed the 8 monsters in an instant. Therefore, when the other monsters arrived, Jian Wushuang had already left, and the monsters had missed him. However, after this encounter, Jian Wushuang was even more careful in the dark magic region. Especially when it came to the bigger and stronger monsters that could rival a superior ruler, he became even more cautious. After all, those monsters could detect his presence from thousands of miles away. Now that he was in the dark magic region, his soul power could only cover thousands of miles, so he did not have as much of an advantage in the range of perception as before. In particular, the deeper he went, the larger the monsters were. Jian Wushuang temporarily called them elite-level monsters, which made it more and more difficult for him to move. Soon, another 10 days passed. Jian Wushuang's current position was getting closer and closer to the depths of the dark magic region. At this point, Jian Wushuang found that he had to be very careful with every step he took. There was nothing he could do. The monster branches around him were too dense. Every few thousand miles, there would be monsters gathered together, and there were dozens of them. Among them, there were elite-level monsters. As long as he made a slight movement and was detected by the monsters, there would be a large number of monsters surrounding him and attacking him. Now I finally understand why there were only 3 supreme rulers who made it out of the dark magic region alive. Jian Wushuang could not help sighing. He could imagine what had happened to the supreme rulers. When they first entered the dark magic region, they did not encounter any danger. In this way, they would continue to make their way deeper into the dark magic region. Gradually, the supreme rulers would come into contact with these dark red monsters. With their soul perception ability, the supreme rulers could easily deal with these dark red monsters at first. After all, they could easily avoid them. However, as they continued deeper into the dark magic region, there were more and more dark red monsters. It became more and more difficult for them to move. At this time, if the superior rulers chose to leave, they could survive. However, these superior rulers came to the dark magic region to obtain opportunities. They left without obtaining any opportunities. Most of the superior rulers would not choose to do so. Therefore, they would continue to advance until they reached the depths of the dark magic region, such as Jian Wushuang's current position. Jian Wushuang was already in a difficult situation. It was even more difficult for ordinary superior rulers to move. If they were careless and were discovered by the monsters, a large number of monsters would surround them and kill them. They would not be able to escape. The 3 rulers who survived the dark magic region were either strong enough to survive and leave in such an environment, or they did not really come to the depths of the dark magic region and did not encounter the dangerous situation I'm in now, Jian Wushuang muttered. Dangerous situation, yes, he was indeed in a very dangerous situation. After all, he was surrounded by dark red monsters. There were 3 teams of such monsters within thousands of miles of his consciousness, and each team had dozens of monsters. There were hundreds of them in total. I can't make any noise in the dark magic region. If I make any noise, a large number of monsters will surround me. I'm afraid that ordinary superior rulers won't be able to escape, Jian Wushuang said with a faint smile. As for me, fortunately, I have the secret skill that you told me about. After fighting with the 8-headed monster, Jian Wushuang understood that in order to enter the dark magic region, hiding skills were especially important, in addition to strong strength and life-saving skills. After all, if you hid well enough so that the monsters could not find you, you would naturally be safe. Therefore, during the time he entered the dark magic region, he had been looking for secret skills to cultivate. He had been wandering in the star field for a long time and had even killed a ruler. He had obtained a lot of resources, including some unique secret skills. He also had secret skills to conceal his aura, but they were not of a high level. In this star field, they could only be considered at an ordinary level. It would be difficult for such an ordinary secret skill to hide from monsters at the elite level. Fortunately, Jian Wushuang still had the Devil Flame in his hand. Devil Flame was a ruler at the ultimate level when he was alive. Not only was he powerful, but he had also experienced the drill ground in the vast universe. His knowledge and skills were extraordinary. Devil Flame naturally knew some secret skills to conceal his aura. At Jian Wushuang's request, Devil Flame taught him a secret skill to conceal himself. The level of this secret skill was not very high in the vast universe, but it was much more powerful than the secret skills of concealment in this star field. Moreover, it was relatively easy to cultivate this secret skill. In just a few days, Jian Wushuang had already mastered it. After mastering this secret skill of concealment, Jian Wushuang immediately went to try it. He found that with this secret skill, even the monsters at the elite level could not sense his arrival in advance. Only then did he enter the depths of the dark magic region smoothly and did not make much noise. I can sense the existence of the monsters around me, but those monsters can't find me. Even though there are many monsters around, I can still deal with them calmly. Jian Wushuang chuckled. He was wandering alone in the depths of the dark magic region. Half a day later, Jian Wushuang's expression suddenly changed, and a trace of shock appeared on his face. Monsters, so many monsters. Jian Wushuang could sense that thousands of miles ahead of him, there were a large number of dark red monsters gathered. A fierce and tyrannical aura soared into the sky. Jian Wushuang simply swept his consciousness over and saw hundreds of such monsters. This was because the range of his soul power was close to that area. As he slowly approached that area, the number of monsters he sensed increased. Too many, too many. There must be more than 1,000 monsters. Jian Wushuang was amazed. Along the way, he encountered many monsters, but at most, there were only dozens of monsters gathered together. But now, there were more than 1,000 monsters gathered in front of him. Most of the monsters were ordinary-level monsters, but there were still dozens of elite-level monsters. So many monsters gathered together. Is there something special about that area? Jian Wushuang raised his eyebrows and immediately used his concealment secret skill to carefully approach the area. Soon, he appeared in the void around the thousands of monsters. Even without using his soul power, Jian Wushuang could see a large number of dark red monsters gathered on the ground in front of him. In the center of the land, there was a blood-colored stone with an extremely strange shape. On the blood-colored stone, there were a few white light spots floating quietly. The white light spots were extremely dazzling and emitted a unique aura. Jian Wushuang's eyes were completely fixed on the white light spots. A life core fragment. Yes, that's a life core fragment. The devil flame in the blood-red gourd also became excited. Master, you're really lucky. There are indeed pieces of the immortal ghost's life core fragment left behind in the dark magic region. Moreover, there are not only one, but several pieces or even more. Jian Wushuang's eyes were also shining with surprise and joy. The dazzling white light spots floating on the bloodstone seemed to contain a special magic power, which made his mind go silent. The numerous monsters around the bloodstone looked at the white light spots with fanaticism. Obviously, the white light spots meant a lot to them. There's more than one life core fragment. Jian Wushuang clenched his hands. There are 4 pieces of life core fragments floating on the bloodstone. I'm afraid there are other life core fragments in this area and other places in the dark magic region. However, although the life core fragment is right in front of me, it's not easy for me to get it. Jian Wushuang narrowed his eyes slightly. The bloodstone was in the center of the monsters. If he wanted to step on the bloodstone and collect all the life core fragments, he would have to pass through the monsters. Even if he got the life core fragments, he would still have to escape from these crazy monsters. It was not easy for him to escape from these crazy monsters. Moreover, Jian Wushuang also found that the life core fragments on the bloodstone were not floating together, but scattered in different places. Even if he rushed to the bloodstone at the first moment, if he wanted to collect the life core fragments, he could only collect them one by one. He could not put all 4 life core fragments into his interspatial ring at once. It's a bit troublesome. Jian Wushuang frowned. He did not choose to attack at once, but began to think. He was thinking about how to get the life core fragments from the group of monsters, and it was best to get all 4 life core fragments at once. Master, these blood-colored specters are formed from the blood of the immortal specters. They have very low intelligence. The life core fragments left by the immortal specters should be something like holy objects for them. That's why they pay so much attention to them. If you try to snatch them, they will definitely go crazy, Devil Flame said. I know. I'm thinking about how to get the life core fragment easily or how to reduce the risk, Jian Wushuang said. Reduce the risk? Almost impossible. Devil Flame shook his head. I can see that the reason why these scarlet specters are gathered here is to protect the life core fragments. This is their mission. Master, if you want to get the life core fragments, you have to force your way through them, Devil Flame said. I have to force my way through? Jian Wushuang frowned. It would be risky to force his way in. After all, there were thousands of monsters gathered in front of him, including dozens of elite-level ones, which was equivalent to dozens of superior rulers. It would not be easy to snatch the 4 life core fragments from under the nose of these monsters and escape. No matter what, I have to give it a try. Jian Wushuang made up his mind. Immediately, he carefully approached the bloodstone. The concealing secret skill that Devil Flame had taught him was indeed impressive. He had clearly come to the vicinity of the monsters, but the monsters had not found any trace of Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang was still slowly approaching. His idea was very clear. First of all, he had to get as close as possible before the monsters found him. Only then could he reach the bloodstone at the fastest speed. That was why he slowly approached. He was very close. Jian Wushuang was already less than a mile away from where the monsters were gathered. Suddenly, among the thousands of monsters, dozens of the strongest elite-level monsters raised their heads at the same time. It was obvious that they had noticed something. Charge! Jian Wushuang did not hesitate. The moment he saw the dozens of elite-level monsters raise their heads, he instantly burst out with his fastest speed. He saw a pair of huge black wings spread out behind his back, and the mystic light phantom movement technique burst out to the extreme. His aura soared into the sky, and his whole body was like a sharp sword, directly piercing into the monsters. At the same time, a large amount of pitch black and cold light crazily swept out. These pitch black and cold lights were layers of magic light. Triple magic light mirror, domain suppression. In the mystic light realm combined with the celestial light wings, this terrifying domain covered an area of thousands of miles and suppressed thousands of monsters in this area. Roar! 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 One after another, earth-shaking roars sounded. These roars were accompanied by an unprecedented madness and anger. The thousands of monsters in this area had been awakened. Countless violent auras locked onto Jian Wushuang almost at the same time, followed by a large number of dark red monsters. However, Jian Wushuang's speed was too fast. He had tried to close the distance as much as possible. After being discovered, he immediately attacked with his fastest speed. In addition, the triple magic light mirror combined with the domain suppression effect of the mystic light realm had greatly reduced the speed of those monsters. The speed of the monsters was greatly reduced. When the monsters reacted and charged forward, Jian Wushuang had already charged into the group of monsters and was very close to the bloodstone. The life core fragment is in front. Jian Wushuang's eyes flashed with an unprecedented firmness. He could feel the soaring killing intent from all directions. He did not care about the monsters that were coming at him from the back and from both sides. On the contrary, there were many monsters in front of him blocking his way. He had no choice. After all, this was a group of monsters. Although he rushed in at the first moment, there were definitely monsters in front of him that would block him. However, for Jian Wushuang, these obstructions could only be defeated head-on. Kill! The Netherworld Divine Sword appeared in Jian Wushuang's hand. At this moment, Jian Wushuang did not dare to hide anything and unleashed his strongest strength almost at the first moment. A dragon's cry sounded, and 30% of the magic dragon power of the endless devil dragon armor had been added to his body. Intruders, die! The monsters in front of Jian Wushuang all waved their arms. The 2 arms, which were like battle sabers, chopped down, and in an instant, a dense amount of saber light rushed toward Jian Wushuang. It was like a long river rushing toward Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang pushed the mystic light phantom movement technique to the extreme. One after another, strange phantom lights flashed, and his figure easily passed through the gaps of the saber lights. Then, a dazzling sword light lit up. "Get lost!" With a low roar, a huge sword shadow descended like a waterfall from the 9 heavens. The sword light was cold and carried a terrifying power. It covered the bodies of more than a dozen monsters in front of them almost at the same time. These monsters gathered their chi to block with their arms, but in the end, more than a dozen figures were sent flying at the same time, including 2 monsters that had reached the elite level. Jian Wushuang's figure was not hindered at all. He rushed forward again, and at the same time, a cold sword light lit up. An elite-level monster was still red-eyed and looked mad and angry. However, its body had been cut into 2 pieces by the sword light, and its life core was shattered on the spot. An elite-level monster was comparable to a superior ruler among cultivators. However, under Jian Wushuang's full power, it was killed in an instant. It was slow to say, but in fact, from Jian Wushuang's sudden attack into the monster crowd, to his brutal attack to repelling dozens of monsters in front of him, and then killing the elite-level monster, it was all done in an instant. In this short moment, the monsters behind Jian Wushuang and the monsters on both sides did not have time to get close to him. However, Jian Wushuang had already defeated all the obstacles in front of him, and he had stepped on the bloodstone. As soon as he stepped on the bloodstone, Jian Wushuang's eyes immediately locked on the life core fragment closest to him. Without hesitation, Jian Wushuang waved his hand, and the life core fragment was directly put into his interspatial ring. "I got the first life core fragment." Jian Wushuang was pleasantly surprised, but when he raised his head to collect the second life core fragment, his expression suddenly changed. "Oh no!" Jian Wushuang looked in front of him. There were already more than 100 monsters blocking his way, and a large number of monsters were crazily attacking him from both sides and behind him, and they were very close to him. In this situation, he had no time to collect the second life core fragment. "Run!" Jian Wushuang made a prompt decision and immediately turned around, wanting to escape. But it was easy to rush in, but it was extremely difficult to escape from the monsters. After all, there were no less than 100 monsters blocking his way in any direction. Jian Wushuang instantly locked onto the direction in which he had broken in, and an overwhelming chill instantly spread out. Hundreds of monsters? Jian Wushuang's eyes were cold. "So what? Those who block me will die." A sharp whistle came out of Jian Wushuang's mouth, and his eyes shone with a dazzling light. Endless divine power swept out crazily. At this moment, he had already brought out his strongest battle strength, except for the 2 trump cards, Devil Flame Body and Dragon Killing Secret Skill. Buzz, buzz, buzz. A strange sound suddenly sounded. It seemed to be Weird's voice, simple and low. A gorgeous sword shadow spread out. The sword shadow was hazy and turned into a cloud of fog that spread out. More than half of the hundreds of monsters in front of Jian Wushuang were covered by this cloud of fog. These monsters, who had low intelligence and only knew how to kill Jian Wushuang at all costs, did not realize that this fog was extraordinary. However, in just a moment, an extremely dazzling light flashed in the fog. It was as if a sun had appeared out of thin air, but this sun was extremely cold. Sizzle, sizzle, sizzle. The sound of wheat being cut sounded one after another. Under the dazzling light, the monsters were mercilessly cut open, and even the life core in their abdomen was shattered. In just a moment, more than half of the hundreds of monsters in front of Jian Wushuang, including 6 that had reached the elite level, were covered in fog, their bodies all falling down. With just one sword strike, more than 60 monsters of the ordinary level and 6 monsters of the elite level were killed. The power of this strike was shocking. After cultivating for 10,000 years in the second heaven of the Red Cloud world, my understanding of sword principle has reached a whole new level. My understanding of the universe origin of sword principle is even comparable to that of a third-level ruler. In the past 10,000 years, I created the strongest sword skill, Hazy. Under the burst of my strongest power, Even a second-level ruler, Kuan-Yu, would be severely injured. These monsters, who don't even have an immortal body and are extremely stupid, could not survive my strike. Jian Wushuang's eyes were cold. He was not surprised by the result of his sword attack. After cultivating for 10,000 years in the second heaven of the Red Cloud world, he had greatly improved his sword principle and swordsmanship. The strongest swordsmanship, hazy, contained profound universe origin of sword principle. It was indeed very easy to kill these low-intelligence monsters. However, when Jian Wushuang used the most powerful sword skill, hazy, to kill the monsters in front of him, the monsters that came from all directions did not stay idle. Instead, they directly attacked him. Although they were separated by a certain distance, there were still many densely packed saber lights coming toward Jian Wushuang. The saber lights that came from all directions were extremely sharp and powerful. The key was that the saber lights covered a wide area and Jian Wushuang could not dodge them. Earth Guard, come out! Jian Wushuang directly used his most powerful protective sword skill. Buzz, buzz, a large amount of sword essence, together with a large amount of earthy yellow energy, instantly rose up and formed layers of earthy yellow earth sword domain. In the blink of an eye, Jian Wushuang had condensed a total of 32 earth sword domains in front of him. It must be known that when Jian Wushuang was challenging the peak of heaven-treading mountain in the Red Cloud world, he was attacked by the Snow-White Ape Man, the Three-Eyed Demon Woman, and the Stone Man. The earth sword domain he used was only at the 13th level, but even if it was at the 13th level, his body protection ability was also extremely powerful. An ordinary superior ruler would not be able to break it. But now, 10,000 years later, when he used Earth Guard, he instantly condensed a total of 32 levels of the Earth Sword domain. From the 13th level to the 32nd level, the improvement was too great, and the Earth Guard was stronger and stronger. In terms of body protection power, the 32nd level of the Earth Guard Sword Realm was definitely 10 times stronger than the previous 13 levels of the Earth Sword domain. The 32 levels of the Earth Guarding Sword domain covered Jian Wushuang's entire body, and the saber lights that came from all directions bombarded the Earth Guarding Sword domain like raindrops. However, after a round of attacks, the 32 levels of the Earth Guarding Sword domain were only defeated by 16 levels, and only half of them were defeated. So weak! Jian Wushuang could not help being surprised, but he quickly understood. Although there were many monsters attacking him, and there were many saber lights that hit the Earth Guard Sword domain in an instant, first of all, these saber lights were performed by the monsters from a long distance. The power of the saber lights would naturally be weakened while they were moving. Secondly, the monsters were attacking separately. Their attacks were very single and did not gather together, so the impact on the Earth Guard Sword domain was naturally not too big. Such an attack could not threaten Jian Wushuang at all. Let's go! Jian Wushuang did not want to stay any longer. He killed more than 70 monsters in front of him in one breath. There was already a gap in the monster horde in front of him, and his speed immediately reached its peak. With the help of the Mystic Light Phantom Movement technique, he rushed out of the gap almost in an instant. He rushed out of the gap. I'm out! Jian Wushuang's eyes lit up, but before he had time to be pleasantly surprised, he found that the numerous monsters behind him were charging toward him like wasps. On the way, the monsters hissed one after another. These hisses shook the sky, obviously calling for their companions. It seems that they have their eyes on me and vowed to kill me. Jian Wushuang frowned, but he was mentally prepared. He knew very well that once he made a move, he would definitely be surrounded and killed by these monsters. Moreover, not only the thousands of monsters guarding the life core fragment, but also a large number of monsters scattered in the dark magic region would come. What he needed to do now was to escape from the hands of these monsters. There are too many monsters. When they hear the call for help, a large number of monsters gathered in the dark magic region will probably rush toward me. I don't know how many monsters will gather here in a short time. Jian Wushuang narrowed his eyes slightly. I don't care. Since I've caused such a big commotion, I don't care if it's bigger. Jian Wushuang's divine power surged. The Mystic Light Realm, which was originally combined with the Mystic Light Realm but only spread for thousands of miles around, suddenly became more powerful under Jian Wushuang's control. The area it covered also expanded at a terrifying speed. In the blink of an eye, it spread for millions of miles from the first thousands of miles. Suddenly, the deep void in the dark magic field was covered by dark magic light and completely fell into the mystic light realm. The large number of dark red monsters in the depth of this million miles were naturally alarmed. There are so many monsters? Jian Wushuang used all his strength to activate the mystic light realm, and at the same time, he covered the flowing lights with his soul power, so he could clearly sense the scene within a range of 1,000,000 kilometers. But when he saw it, he was completely stunned. He had not used the mystic light realm before, so he could only use his soul power to sense the area within a range of thousands of kilometers. There was a huge difference between a radius of thousands of miles and a radius of 1,000,000 miles. There were too many monsters in this area. There were at least tens of thousands of them. Intruder! Kill! Kill him! Roar! Roar! Many monsters in this area were awakened by Jian Wushuang's mystic light realm. A large number of monsters, some dozens of them gathered together, and some hundreds of them gathered together and rushed at Jian Wushuang from all directions. Jian Wushuang was already in the center of these monsters. If so many monsters gathered together, even if I'm 10 times stronger, I won't be able to resist them. Jian Wushuang's eyes widened. Tens of thousands of monsters with the lowest strength could be comparable to an advanced ruler? It would not be a problem for him to sweep across the star field. Jian Wushuang was strong, but he also had no room to fight against so many monsters. Run! I have to escape from the sight of these monsters. At least I can't let these monsters surround me. Otherwise, I'll be dead for sure. Jian Wushuang's face was solemn. With the help of the mystic light realm, he could easily sense the positions of the monsters within 1,000,000 miles. Then he burst out with his fastest speed. With the help of the celestial light wings, his speed was much faster than that of a superior ruler. However, the monsters in the dark magic region were not good at speed. Even those at the elite level were far slower than him. He immediately ran as fast as he could. At least, the thousands of monsters chasing after him would not be able to catch up. What he needed to do now was to try his best to avoid those monsters. There are about 40 monsters 3,000 miles ahead. Elite monsters and 2 monsters. Quickly avoid them. There are more than 300 monsters in this direction. Let's escape. We can't pass here. Let's go around them first. Jian Wushuang relied on his ability to sense the positions of the monsters. He kept changing his direction within 1,000,000 miles to avoid the groups of monsters that were attacking him. However, after a while, Jian Wushuang frowned again. No, I can't continue like this. Jian Wushuang's face was cold. Although I can sense their position in advance and try to avoid them, my mystic light realm is too dazzling. Although these monsters are stupid, they can still sense the existence of this domain. Since there is a domain, they know that I am still in this area. Then they will rush to the center of the domain and won't retreat. If this continues, when the surrounding area slowly shrinks, I won't be able to avoid it even if I want to. Although the mystic light realm could allow him to sense the monster's location in advance, thus avoiding them. At the same time, the mystic light realm also allowed him to become a light in the dark magic region, exposing his location. The monsters could know that he was still in this region based on the domain, and he was definitely in the center of the domain, so they would naturally continue to attack him. Maybe he could fight with these monsters for a while, but as time passed, more and more monsters gathered around him and the encirclement became more and more tight. He could not avoid them. At this point, there is only one way to get out of this predicament. It is to find an area within 1,000,000 miles of the mystic light realm where there are no monsters or fewer monsters and rush there as fast as possible. Then, I will restrain the domain and hide myself, Jian Wushuang thought. It was easy for him to say, but in fact, he knew very well that although there were a few areas within 1,000,000 miles where there were monsters fighting or where there were no monsters, the reason why the monsters in that area were fighting was because the monsters that were originally gathered there were frantically rushing toward his location. In other words, if he wanted to go there, he had to break through the obstacles of the large number of monsters in front of him. After careful calculation, Jian Wushuang found that it was almost impossible to avoid those monsters. There are 4 areas within 1,000,000 miles that can allow me to hide safely. If I want to go to any of these 4 areas, I have to encounter a large number of monsters. I can't avoid them, but in comparison, there is one area where I encounter fewer monsters along the way. Jian Wushuang's eyes were like lightning. He relied on the mystic light realm to control everything within a radius of 1,000,000 miles, so he naturally knew the number of monsters in those areas. There were many monsters in 3 of the 4 feasible areas. Jian Wushuang had to break through at least 5 to 6 obstacles and encounter many monsters in each of them. In the last area, there were fewer monsters, but if he wanted to reach there, even if he tried to avoid them, he would at least encounter 3 monsters. Jian Wushuang carefully studied the 3 layers of monsters. Fortunately, there were only about 100 monsters in the first layer, and less than 10 of them had reached the elite level, so they could not cause him too much trouble. After all, with his hazy sword, he could completely defeat these 100 monsters head-on. Although the number of monsters in the 3rd layer was slightly more than that of the first layer, there were about 300 of them, but not many of them had reached the elite level. Jian Wushuang was confident that he could break through the obstacles of these monsters. On the other hand, there were more than 700 monsters in the 2nd level. Among them, there were no less than 40 elite-level monsters. The obstacles of these monsters were much more difficult than the 1st level, and the 3rd level it was much more difficult. However, although it was difficult, it was much more difficult than the other areas. In the other areas, there were even thousands of monsters. I have no choice but to break through. Jian Wushuang clenched his hands and his eyes flashed with a fierce light. He spread his wings and rushed toward the area where there were 3 layers of monsters. On the way, he tried to avoid other monsters, but there was no way to avoid the 3 layers of monsters. Soon, Jian Wushuang encountered the 1st layer of monsters. The first obstacle was the one with the least number of monsters and the easiest to break through. Looking at the hundreds of monsters swarming in front of him, Jian Wushuang's eyes flashed with killing intent. Kill it. Intruders. Damn it. Roar. The hundreds of monsters were crazy and violent. They did not know how to cooperate at all. The hundreds of monsters swarmed toward Jian Wushuang. Buzz. Clouds of fog surrounded them and spread rapidly. Combined with the suppression effect of the mystic light realm, more than half of the monsters were covered in an instant. Then, a dazzling and chilling light suddenly lit up. The strongest swordsmanship. Hazy. Almost instantly, more than half of the monsters were cut open by the dazzling sword light, and a large number of monster corpses fell down. The 1st layer of monster obstacles collapsed in an instant. Although there were still a small number of monsters that rushed up, Jian Wushuang could easily deal with them. However, in a flash, Jian Wushuang had passed through this layer of monster obstacles. However, Jian Wushuang was not happy at all. After all, among the 3 layers of obstacles, the first one was the easiest, so it was easy for him to pass through. However, the 2nd obstacle that he was about to encounter was his problem. There are almost 800 monsters in the 2nd obstacle, and there are about 50 elites who are comparable to a superior ruler. It's impossible for me to kill all of them. I can only rely on my speed to pass through them in the fastest time. Jian Wushuang licked his lips. In terms of strength, he was much stronger than these monsters. And in terms of speed and movement, these monsters were far inferior to him. Therefore, even if he faced 800 of these monsters head-on, he still had a chance to break through. Very soon, Jian Wushuang encountered the 800 monsters in the 2nd obstacle. The 800 monsters gathered together and blotted out the sky and the earth, rushing toward Jian Wushuang like a tidal wave. As soon as they saw Jian Wushuang, the monsters attacked him from afar. Jian Wushuang was not afraid at all. With the Earth Protection Sword skill, he could easily block the saber lights with 32 Earth Sword domains. This was why these monsters were inferior to human cultivators. If Jian Wushuang were facing human rulers instead of these stupid monsters, he would not dare to pass through them. The human rulers could cooperate with each other even though they were not familiar with each other. Even without the support of the magic formation, the power of the 800 rulers could be as powerful as a 3rd-level ruler, Even with the protective sword skill Earthguard, Jian Wushuang could not resist the power of a third-level ruler. However, these monsters were far inferior to the human ruler. They did not know how to cooperate at all. They did not even know how to stack the simplest power. They could only stupidly attack on their own. Although there were many attacks, the power did not stack together. They could not pose much of a threat to Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang withstood the attacks of these monsters and directly charged into the group of monsters. Then, with the suppression of the realm, Jian Wushuang's speed and the strange mystic light phantom movement technique burst out completely. A strange figure flashed and changed unscrupulously in the group of monsters, easily passing through one monster after another. Even if Jian Wushuang blocked the way, he would directly attack and easily kill the other party. However, the monsters could hardly catch Jian Wushuang's shadow, not to mention that even if they did, they could not keep up with his speed. Moreover, they could not blindly attack him. After all, there were a lot of their companions around where Jian Wushuang was. Therefore, Jian Wushuang did not encounter much resistance in the monster circle. In just a moment, Jian Wushuang broke through the encirclement. "It's much easier than I expected." Jian Wushuang smiled faintly as he looked at the numerous monsters behind him who were still madly chasing after him. The second obstacle was the most difficult of the three obstacles. Jian Wushuang thought that he would have to spend more effort to break through it, but he did not expect it to be so easy. Although there were many monsters, they did not give him much pressure. Stupid. Not only stupid, but there isn't even a commander among these monsters. Jian Wushuang sneered. These 800 monsters were fighting on their own and acted according to their own consciousness. If one of them was stronger, even if it was just the most basic commander, he would not have been able to break through it so easily. I passed through the second obstacle so easily. As for the third obstacle, it's even easier. Jian Wushuang smiled lightly. Sure enough, it did not take long for him to encounter the third obstacle. This time, there were only 300 monsters in front of him, so he passed through it easily. Since then, he had completely passed through the three obstacles in front of him. The road in front of him was unimpeded. Jian Wushuang arrived at the area he had chosen with relative ease. Then, he immediately withdrew his domain. His aura was immediately concealed. Without his domain, Jian Wushuang could no longer sense the monsters within a radius of 1 million miles. However, these monsters had also completely lost track of Jian Wushuang. A large number of monsters continued to frantically search for Jian Wushuang in the area. However, Jian Wushuang had already found a place to hide. These monsters did not even have the basic soul perception ability. They were like blind people, so of course they could not find Jian Wushuang. Behind a giant rock, Jian Wushuang was hiding here. At this moment, he was sitting cross-legged in front of him. In front of him, there was a life core fragment that was emitting light. This life core fragment. What a strange feeling. Jian Wushuang just stared at the life core fragment in front of him. Although he had obtained this life core fragment from the boulder, he had been running all the way and had no time to check it out. Only now was he able to observe the life core fragment up close. This life core fragment was actually a small, white, elite-sized piece. However, within this small white piece, there was an extremely unique aura. Jian Wushuang had already sensed the extremely rich universe laws contained in the white piece. Obviously, he had told Devil Flame that the life core fragment could indeed help him to comprehend the universe principles.